we will now officially entering the afternoon session. So may I invite the representative from Japan, Dr. Hiroto Izumi, Project Professor of the University of Tokyo, Doctor of Engineering, former Special Advisor to the Prime Minister of Japan, and Honorary Advisor to JBIA.
Good afternoon and hello everyone. My name is Hiroto Izumi. I'd like to extend my warm welcome to all the participants. I've been reading Japanese policy for almost 9 years as a special advisor to the Prime Minister, Abe Suga. Before that, I was responsible for housing, building, and urban policy as a Ministry of Land, Infrastructure, Transport, Tourism. Hereafter, I call EMIRET. Today, on behalf of JIBH, I am pleased to co-host a policy seminar on sustainable building in the cities, together with the Bangkok Metropolitan Administration, the OECD, ERIA, and provide opening remarks. As some of you may know, in 2037, Japan will launch the maglev bullet train, or a new Shinkansen, which will transcend conventional rail technology, traveling at 500 km per hour by magnetic levitation, 500 per hour. It will connect Tokyo and Osaka in just 67 minutes, instead of 2.5 hours on the current Shinkansen. This will create the world's largest mega region with a population of 66 million, linking 3 global cities, 4 international airports, 3 international ports, and 2 international science cities, including Tsukuba City in Japan. The 21st century is called as the Metropolitan century, with an increasing role of mega regions and cities. However, there are many challenges facing cities, including environmental degradation and widening disparities among people and across places. To overcome these challenges and create sustainable cities, there is a need for policy dialogue that transcends the boundaries between the public and private sectors and between national and local administration. This is why today we invited leaders from government and the private sector who are on the front line of building sustainable cities. Now, I'd like to briefly introduce the 4 keynote speakers. First, I would like to welcome Mr. Hachiyama, COO of ERIA. ERIA has been playing a leading role in policy research in Southeast Asia, and I'm pleased to be able to organize this seminar together with ERIA. Next is Governor Chat. I'd like to extend my special gratitude to the governor for hosting this seminar in Bangkok. I'd also like to celebrate the governor for being invited to the OECD's Champion Mayors for Inclusive Growth Initiative. Today, I look forward to hearing about your Liveable City initiative of Bangkok. Next, Mr. Nadim Hamad, Deputy Director from OECD. I am very happy to see that OECD's urban and building program is growing and producing high-quality research outcomes, such as compact cities and urban green growth. Since I had established a dedicated support program as an EMIRET almost 30 years ago. Today, I'm happy to hear the latest news from Nadim. Finally, I'd like to welcome Mayor Igarashi of Tsukuba City, Japan. He is also a part of the OECD Champion Mayor for Inclusive Growth Initiative. I hear that the successful smart city policy led by the mayor is attracting attention in Japan and abroad. After the keynote speeches, 2 panel discussions among distinguished panelists are scheduled. Now, I'd like to provide 2 background and policy context behind this seminar. First, let me start with 2 most significant factors affecting the current economy and society. The first, demographic change. It is well known that Japan will experience a rapid aging and declining population. After peaking at 128 million in 2008. The population in Japan is expected to fall to 105 million by 2050 and 87 million by 2070. The share of the population aged 65 and more will rise from 28.6% in 2020 to 37.1% in 2050. The absolute number of the elderly will also increase. So will the number of single elderly households, underlining the necessity to address isolation and loneliness. In Japan, healthy life expectancy in 2019 is reported to be 72.7 years for men and 75.4 years for women, an increase of 2.3 years for men and 1.8 years for women compared to 2010. Nevertheless, there is still a period of approximately 10 years during which people are unable to carry out their healthy daily lives. The number of people with dementia is also increasing year by year. And there is a need for well-coordinated housing and welfare policies in looking after elderly in the local community, for instance. This graph shows the result of physical fitness test for 3 different age groups. All the 3 age groups have improved their performance the past 20 years. In the next 5 years, the physical fitness performance of the late 70s will exceed that of late 60s in 1998. These trends have led the Japanese Society of Gerontology to recommend that the definition of elderly people currently set at 65 years and over should be revised to 75 years and over. By the way, now I am 70 years old and intending to work for at least another 5 years, maybe 10 years or 15 years, and my younger colleague might opposite. The demographic changes I have just described are not unique to Japan. Thailand's population is also expected to peak at 67 million in 2028. Southeast Asia is also expected to transition to an aging society in the near future, posing a variety of policy challenges to the urban, social, and economic landscapes. Despite the challenge, I believe that cities can be more sustainable and inclusive by extending healthy life expectancy, just as Japan, through promoting the small smart cities, such as digitizing healthcare and utilizing artificial intelligence and robot technology. The second major factor affecting the current economy and society is climate change. Extreme weather events have become more intense and frequent, with severe flooding reported in Europe as well as Thailand and Japan. In Japan, the number of days of heavy rainfall in the recent 3 decades was 1.7 times larger than in the first 3 decades in the 20th century. Last year, the IPCC reported that there is a rapidly closing window of opportunity to secure a livable and sustainable future for all. We need to accelerate action in this critical decade. Building resilience is a nationwide priority in Japan. To do so, Japan aims to achieve, first, protect human lives. The second, minimize damage to property and public facility. The third, sustain the economy and society. And fourth, achieve recovery and reconstruction, build back better. Following the Noto Hanto earthquake on the 1st of January this year, relevant ministries, agencies, and local authorities are currently working together to support victims and for speedy recovery. Japan's experience clearly shows that daily preparation and communication among relevant agencies in usual time is critically important. Last July, G7 urban ministers met in Takamatsu City, Japan, and summarized the urban challenges and opportunities in three main areas. Those are net zero, inclusive growth, and digital transition. The importance of partnership with subnational governments, engage civil society and the private sector, and international exchanges were also shared. Today's seminar is expected to discuss how housing and building and urban policies can respond to the three key challenges and improve the well-being of citizens. From my end, let me contribute to the discussion by introducing a relevant policy initiative in Japan. First, I want to talk about the green transition and the net zero future. In Japan, half of carbon dioxide emissions originate from urban activities. This highlights the significance of urban contribution to carbon neutrality. Japan is advancing carbon neutrality with three pillars. First, a reform toward compact and networked urban structure. Japanese cities aim to concentrate urban function in strategic location through land use and facility planning, promote the use of public transport and create a workable built environment. The second pillar is district approach, which aim to expand the number of net zero districts by integrated renewable energy and district heating and cooling with energy efficient buildings. The third pillar is the development of green infrastructure. This initiative promotes carbon dioxide absorption and emission reduction by securing green space in urban areas and mitigating the urban heat island effect. In Japan, relevant ministries are working together to designate decarbonization pilot neighborhood. Today, 74 proposals have been selected, including Tsukuba City and Osaka City. The Emirate is intensively promoting this pilot neighborhood, including through financial support. Building account for 37% global carbon dioxide emission, of which 28% comes from use, such as heating and cooling, and 9% from manufacturing, such as concrete and steel frames. At COP28 in Dubai last year, in addition to energy efficiency of buildings, there was a lot of discussion on whole life cycle carbon from building. In Japan, discussion on life cycle carbon dioxide have also become more active since last year. Mr. Takamiya from Emirate is here to provide more details later today. Japan is also intensively advancing digital transition and smart cities. With regard to smart cities, it is necessary to promote collaboration between industry, government, and academia, including among relevant ministries. Therefore, when I was at the Prime Minister's office, I headed the Smart City Task Force and created a system for the relevant ministries to work together. In addition, public-private partnership platform was established in 2019, which now has 936 participating organizations. The digital transformation for building and cities is being promoted as cross-cutting initiatives in the field of infrastructure. The Emirate is in charge of three initiatives led by three different bureaus, namely, first, 3D digitization of individual building information led by the Housing Bureau. Second, 3D digitization of spatial information for the entire city, led by the Urban Bureau. And third, Real Estate ID, led by Real Estate Bureau. Linking them together based on geospatial information data is expected to provide the basis for smart cities and the creation of new services and industries. Japan has also been supporting smart cities abroad through mutual cooperation between Japan and ASEAN. In October 2020, the Ideathon was held at Bansu Smart City, where 13 Japanese and Thai parties promote smart service ideas. We hope that Japanese experience and technology will continue to be utilized in building smart cities and in Bangkok, Thailand, and other ASEAN countries. The Super City is an initiative I was involved in establishing when I was at the Prime Minister's office. It allows the regulation in multiple policy areas related to our daily lives to create new service using AI, IoT, and other digital technologies. At the moment, Tsukuba City and Osaka City have been selected and working on regulatory reform in multiple fields. Finally, I would like to introduce Japan's effort for diversity and inclusive growth. Japan is promoting workable neighborhoods where everyone feels comfortable, including women, children, the elderly, and disabled people. Creating space where diverse population can gather, interact, and stay in town center can generate new connection and innovation. Since 2020, the Emirate has been supporting municipalities to create comfortable and workable urban areas through a package of legal, budgetary, tax, and other measures. For example, Himeji City, below left, has transformed a car-centered station plaza into a people-centered plaza with a transit mall. Pedestrians are given priority by narrowing the roadway and widening the footpaths. In Yamagata City in Japan, the inclusive place called Kopal provides a space where all children can play and enjoy. The word inclusive means that people with different backgrounds and characteristics, such as gender, age, race, nationality, and disabilities, can live together and accept with each other. This facility was designed using the PFY approach with the knowledge of the private sector. A series of dialogue in the design process contributed to create an inclusive place for people with and without disabilities to enjoy, including a wide slope and open space design that makes it easy to watch over the children. We have remembered that green and digital transition project can face difficulties due to lack of understanding by the public and citizens. What is crucial to creating sustainable city is address disabilities, involve various stakeholders, reflect diverse opinions, and leave no one behind. Let's work together to tackle these three challenges and realize sustainable cities and buildings. The future of city is bright. Thank you very much for your kind attention. ありがとうございました。コップンカー。
ขอบคุณครับどうもありがとうございました
Thank you so much.
ประเทศญี่ปุ่น
So
คิดวางแผนที่ดี
Now we see that Japan has excellent urban development and thinking. So I would like to invite Mr. Koji Kajiyama, the operating officer of Economic Research Institute for ASEAN and East Asian or ERIA. May I invite Mr. Hachiyama onto the stage, please?
Thank you. His Excellency Dr. Hiroto Izumi, former Special Advisor to the Prime Minister of Japan and Honorary Advisor to the JIBH. Thank you very much for the very excellent opening remarks and presentation. And His Excellency Dr. Chachat Sitpunt, Governor of Bangkok, and His Excellency Mr. Tatsuo Igarashi, Mayor of City of Tsukuba, and Mr. Nadim Ahmad, Deputy Director, Center for Entrepreneurship, SMEs, Regions, and Cities, OECDs. My name is Koji Hachiyama, Chief Operating Officer of Economic Research Institute for ASEAN and East Asia. We call it ERIA. Esteemed guests, ladies and gentlemen, a very good afternoon to you all. First and forefront, on behalf of ERIA, I extend a warm welcome to the International Seminar of Sustainable Buildings and Cities here in the vibrant city of Bangkok, Thailand. It is an honor and privilege to address you today as we convene to discuss the shape, the future of urban development and sustainability in Asia. Bangkok, with a dynamic culture and bustling streets, stand as a forefront city in Asia, holding immense potential for sustainable and inclusive growth. The Bangkok Metropolitan Administration, BMA, has been leading the way, steering the city toward progress with innovative policies and practical solutions that harmonize growth with the challenges of urbanization. Today marks a significant milestone as we witness the appointment of Governor of Bangkok, Dr. Chachat, as the first OECD champion mayor from a non-OECD country in Asia. Very congratulations. And his commitment to inclusive growth in the city is not only commendable, but also serves as a beacon of inspiration for leaders worldwide. This seminar serves as a convergence of mind and vision, where we engage in critical discourse on how the buildings and urban development sectors can transition toward achieving net zero goals and fostering smart, inclusive cities. Our focus extends beyond the creation of structures. We aim to build communities that thrive in harmony with their environment. In this regard, ERIA, as an international organization supporting regional integration in ASEAN and East Asia, is eager to promote digital innovation and sustainable economy in the region. The establishment of ERIA's new Digital Innovation and Sustainable Economy Center, we call it EDISC, in August 2023, reinforces communication with government and private sectors to drive digitalization through research on data governance, data free flow, cybersecurity, and the digital divide. In terms of sustainable economy and carbon neutrality, ERIA actively promotes the Asia Zero Emission Community proposed by Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida in 2022. Our organization conducts various simulation analysis on energy demand and supply to achieve carbon neutral goals in ASEAN member states, while also focusing on upgrading urban amenities and smart cities in the region. This is aligned with the mission of our new center to promote sustainability for all through human-centered digitalization. The policy session ignites comprehensive discussion on zero carbon housing, buildings and cities, and inclusive growth in smart cities. These dialogue delve into urgent topics, offering a rich tapestry of insights and strategies. The focus on zero carbon initiatives is not merely a trend, but a necessary evolution toward sustainable living, encompassing a holistic approach to reducing carbon footprints, integrating advanced technologies, and reimagining architectural paradigms. Simultaneously, the discourse on inclusive growth in smart cities unravels the layers of creating urban space that are not only technologically advanced, but also equitably and accessibly. Crafting policies that ensure that benefits of smart urban development are shared across all sectors of society, fostering resilient, adaptive, and thriving communities. I hope that this session promises a dynamic interchanges of ideas where theoretical concepts meet practical solutions. It's an opportunity for policymakers, industry leaders, and stakeholders to converge, challenge the status quo, and collaboratively sketch the blueprint of future where sustainable and inclusive urban development is not just an aspiration, but a reality. I joined and listened to the business session in the morning today, and I think it unveiled innovative technologies and products from Japanese companies, showcasing how collaboration and international partnership can aid the BMA in implementing practical and sustainable solutions in the buildings and urban development sectors. I look forward to some of speakers from the private sector sharing best practice and solutions discussed in the morning. As we embark on this journey today, let us remember that each step toward sustainable buildings and cities is a step toward sustainable development goals. We are not just shaping skyline. We are molding the future of our communities, our environment, and our world. Once again, I extend my deepest gratitude to BMA, Bangkok Metropolitan Administration, OECD, and the JIBH, Japan International Association for the Industry of Building and Housing, for orchestrating this seminar event. Your participation and contribution are invaluable. Together, let us envision and build not just buildings and cities, but sustainable legacies that will stand the test of time. Thank you, and I eagerly anticipate in enlightening discussion and innovative solutions that will emerge from this gathering. Thank you very much for kind attention.
ครับどうもありがとうございましたขอบพระคุณอย่างสูงครับผมครับ
Thank you so
ก็
much.
ผ่านไปเป็น2ท่านนะครับที่ผม
So,
ในช่วงบ่ายครับและ
those were the
ต่อไปครับ
first
จะเป็น
two
ช่วงพิเศษ
speeches that will be that open this session, and there will be three keynote speech. The first one is Mr. Nahim Anam, who is the director from the OECD.
ครับขอเสียงปรบมือ
So may I invite Mr. Nadim
ค
Ahmad.
รับวันนี้ท่านจะมานะครับในหัวข้อ
So Mr. Ahmad will be talking about the model sustainable city.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. It's a real pleasure to be here with you today, and I think we've had two excellent presentations already, I think, to set the scene for what's going to be, I think, a very productive discussion. I wanted to begin by, first of all, thanking you, Governor, for hosting us in your dynamic and fantastic city. I think certainly we've heard an awful lot about the Champion Mayors Initiative, and you're basically being the first non-member country, mayor from a non-member OECD country in Southeast Asia to join. So congratulations. It's fantastic to have you with us. Thank you also to our partners in this initiative, Mr. Dr. Izumi from JIBH, and of course, Koji Hachiyama from ERIA. It's a real pleasure to be able to be part of this initiative with all of you. And of course, I also wanted to say a tremendous thank you to another one of our champion mayors, Dr. Igarashi, who's here with us today, and we'll hear from him later on. Now, before I go into perhaps some of the detail, I wanted just to provide you with some context about who we are within the Centre for Entrepreneurship, SMEs, Regions and Cities within the OECD. So I think it's really important just so you get an idea in terms of what we do and what our responsibilities are and how we work as well, because of course that's really important, I think, just in terms of recognizing the value that we bring through stakeholder engagement, by bringing people like you all together and sharing basically the experiences that you have, using the structures that we have within the OECD. Now, within my centre, we cover a broad range of different themes. We have activities related to SMEs and entrepreneurship. We also have activities related to local employment and skills, tourism, and various other ranges as well. But I wanted to focus today really on the local development angle, and of course, in particular, urban policy. And what we have, of course, within the OECD is a range of committees that bring together all the member countries, national policymakers, but of course, importantly, bring in that sub-national perspective to the table. So we get to have a forum where we share best practices across countries. And I think that's really one of the most important parts of the value system that we can provide. And that's also something that you'll see as I talk more generally about other initiatives, what we see in the Champion Mayors Initiative as well. It's a platform that provides an opportunity for mayors themselves to identify best practices. And also, and as we discussed over lunch, sometimes bad practices, because of course it's really important that we also share information about things that don't work, not just things that do work. I mean, that's really critical. Now, I also wanted to help place perhaps our activity in the OECD more generally with engagement with non-members. And so for about 15 years now, 10 years in fact, we've had a Southeast Asian regional program. This of course was actually driven primarily by Japan, so a tremendous thank you for their support in driving this initiative. And that's really been about our outward engagement within the region under three fundamental pillars and three goals: promoting regional integration, supporting domestic reform processes, and bringing Southeast Asian countries generally closer to OECD bodies and the OECD standards. And I think that the proof of success in that program has been witnessed certainly over the last few months, with Indonesia putting in its application to become a member of the OECD, and only this week Thailand also putting in an application to become a member of the OECD. And we're tremendously excited about having both of those countries join the organisation, because of course that outward engagement, in particular in Southeast Asia, has become a really critical strategic priority for the organisation. It always has been for the last 15, 20 years, but certainly over the last 2, 3, 4 years, it's really been ramped up. And so we're delighted that this is beginning to pay off, and we're beginning to see countries now acceding potentially to the OECD. Now, I also wanted to talk about one of the initiatives that we have, many of the initiatives within the OECD, but of course this is a really important initiative today because we have two of our champion mayors with us here today. So I wanted to say a few words about what the Champion Mayors Initiative is and how it works. And so we have a coalition of mayors, and it's really important that I say mayors as opposed to cities, because it's about the individuals themselves and the values they embody. And those values are really concretized around the idea that they drive and want to drive inclusive growth within their cities. And that inclusive growth, of course, is increasingly being wrapped up with this notion of sustainable growth, resilient growth. All of those factors drive, I think, inclusiveness. And you see here a little montage of all the current champion mayors that we have. And in fact, you'll see there, Dr. Chowdhury, I think you're on the top row. And just to give you a little overview in terms of some of the key events that we've had since we started the initiative. It started back in 2016. We've had every year, every 2 years, we have a meeting, a big meeting of mayors. But it's not just meetings of mayors that are really important to this initiative. It's also the ability of mayors to engage with their national counterparts. And so we also have a roundtable of ministers and mayors. And so we have the opportunity to engage the national with the local, and the local to communicate back to the national. Now, every event that we have, there's of course a blueprint or an action plan. And the most recent action plan, of course, looked at some of the challenges that were really quite contemporaneous, and they always are contemporaneous. And this, of course, was the cost of living crisis and housing. And I think this is something that we see across many countries. There are basically critical challenges related to housing, supply of housing, quality of housing. And so the mayors agreed on an action plan or a blueprint for action, which we're now going to see implemented by all of the mayors. So today I wanted to now focus, a little bit like your presentation, Dr. Azim. We're going to cover very similar issues, and so there's a certain degree of repetition, which is a good thing, because I think that means that we're all talking about the same problem, ostensibly in the same way, and dealing with those challenges. But I wanted to give you just a flavour of some of the things that we do within the OECD that brings a wealth of information and best practice and experiences from across OECD countries, across OECD regions, that cross-fertilise. And we provide information from one country to another about things that work, about things that don't work, and it's that allows us to develop basically these better policies, better lives. And I wanted to focus, first of all, on some of the evidence that we have around the green transition and climate change in particular. Now, I could have chosen many different ways of showing you this. We have we collect a great range of information, scores of indicators for hundreds of municipalities around the globe. And I'm showing you here one that's the urban heat island effect. Now, it's difficult to see there. It's certainly difficult for me to see on this screen here. But if you look at the coloured dots, the red dots demonstrate that there's a very strong urban heat island effect, and about 5 degrees above the surrounding areas. And this matters, of course, because we've seen, I think certainly over the last few years, those urban heat island effects are growing. And so we need to have actions and policies in place that address that, and we've seen some very good examples from you, Dr. Azimi, already, in terms of some of the actions that are on the ground. And we also know that across all of our champion mayors, and indeed within our working parties and our committees that we have meetings with the OECD, we're seeing an awful lot of action that's basically driving the improvement on that front. However, when we think about the broader goals and we think about the types of actions that we need to see in place that are going to allow us to arrive at the 2030 target, and we compare, for example, actions in regions, and this is a chart showing you regions as opposed to cities, what we see, of course, is that the per capita emissions in most OECD regions remain above the 2030 target. So there's a risk, of course, that if we don't accelerate that action, and if we don't accelerate many of the things I hope we're going to see in the course of today's seminar, we're at risk of not meeting that target. Now, the picture's slightly different for cities. Cities in general have lower per capita greenhouse gas emissions than surrounding areas, and that's partly because, of course, that activities like electricity generation generally take place outside. So if you look at it from a consumption perspective rather than the production perspective, you'll see that the consumption approach means that cities themselves still have relatively high emissions. So there's an issue there. But even if you discount that, and cities do have lower GHG emissions, what we've seen since 1990 is an increase of about 24% in those per capita emissions. So we're going in the wrong direction. So it's critical that we accelerate our actions. It's critical that we push the needle on this. Otherwise, we will not meet the 1.5. Now, within the OECD, we have a number of different instruments, a number of different approaches that we try to bring to the table to address these issues. And one of them, a really important one, is what we refer to a territorial approach to climate action and resilience. And that approach brings together a whole range of information. So we have indicators that allow us to track progress, and which is what you see on the right-hand side. I'm giving you an example for Slovakia. I think it's Bratislava, the capital of Slovakia. And it demonstrates, for example, how far they are off the optimum target, and the optimum target being determined by the best performing city. That's the right-hand chart. On the left-hand chart is basically the policy approach that we have. We have 3 pillars that drive those actions, and I'll talk a bit more about what those pillars look like as I go through the presentation. But ultimately, we have toolkits and policy toolkits that allow us, I think, to identify the size of the problem, and then a whole range of different actions that are needed on the ground to drive progress. Now, I wanted to talk about one of those areas in particular, because of course it's really, I think, relevant to the conversation we'll have today. And this is the issue of buildings. We're doing a lot of work at the moment within the OECD, and certainly within my centre, on decarbonising buildings. And you've seen in the earlier presentation from Dr. Izumi that buildings themselves are responsible for about 40% of total greenhouse gas emissions. And that's generally universally true, irrespective of the country. Remember, that's broadly the average. But it's absolutely essential that when we think about actions to address decarbonising buildings, that we also have a very strong spatial dimension. In all the work that we've done, I'm giving you an example here for the Netherlands, the action really has to be very locally place-based. You can have a national view in terms of addressing the issue, but the implementation and the challenges are really quite heterogeneous on the ground. So when I give you an example here for the Netherlands, for example, you see that there are profound differences, for example, in the types of heating sources that are currently available within the Netherlands. And you can go from 68% in Purmerend compared to the national average of 7% in terms of district heating. In terms of energy efficiency, you see that places like Almere have 60% energy label A and above, which is twice the national average. In terms of human capacities, human resources within the local authorities, you also see significantly different allocation of resources in terms of addressing the issue, 40 full-time equivalents in Utrecht compared to 2 in Brunsum. And of course, these also translate into issues like energy poverty. And energy poverty, of course, there are also significant differences. So this all tells us that when we think about actions to address decarbonising buildings, they have to be specific to the localities. They have to reflect the geographical nature. And this can be something that happens even within neighbourhoods. You know, one neighbourhood to another can have very different profiles. The building stock can be very different. So we need to be sensitive to those challenges. Now, I'm showing this chart here only really as a scene setter for the conversation we're about to have in the panel session that follows. But I think that what we're seeing, and this is the key message I wanted to convey here, what we're seeing is that there is profound change in terms of the types of actions that are in place, that are being developed by countries to address decarbonising buildings. And one of the key critical issues is this notion of embodied carbon. That's increasingly becoming, I think, the primary tool that we look at to address some of the challenges. It wasn't in the past, but as you see, this is certainly moving in that direction, and we'll hear more about that later on. I also want to talk a little bit about digitalisation and smart cities, because of course there is an interconnection between digitalisation, smart cities, and of course the green transition more generally. Now, I guess it's no surprise to anybody that when we think about digital capacities, in most countries, pretty much all countries, we see that the internet connection or the digital capacity in urban areas is higher than it is in, say, remote and rural areas. And the chart on the left-hand side shows you that gap between urban areas and rural areas. And so this is looking at broadband speeds. Now that translates, of course, into potential for cities to do more. And this is no coincidence, of course, that growth that we've seen in digitalisation is also translated into growth in smart city actions. And those smart city actions, I think, have impacts across a number of spaces. You know, the ability, for example, to improve urban mobility, the ability to create safer communities, the contribution that data and digitalisation can play in driving net zero, and I'll say more about that in a second, and of course more generally in terms of urban management and planning. So there's huge potential from smart cities to drive progress and of course to drive inclusive growth. Now I'm giving you a few examples here of some of the applications that we've seen in the conversations that we've had with cities over the years, and there are many more that I could refer to. So of course there are actions using smart data and data more generally, digitalization, to address basically energy efficiency in buildings. In New York, for example, that resulted in a 10% drop in CO2 emissions just by implementing those types of changes. We've seen, of course, improvements in the energy sector using smart grid solutions. In Yokohama, I think we saw a 29% reduction from having improvements made on that front in CO2 emissions. In the transport sector, there's huge potential from mobile management systems to improve mobility. In London, that's led to a 9-10% drop in basically in traffic jams. And of course, there's a whole range of other, I think, actions which we can capitalise on digitalisation circular economy, and urban planning. And there's lots of examples that I can give you. I will certainly encourage you at the end to have a look at some of the publications I'm referring to. They provide you with all that information. Now, one of the important toolkits that we have for measuring smart cities is that we have a measurement framework, and it brings together a whole wealth of information that allows us to compare actions and progress across cities. All I wanted to say here is that over the last few years, we've really accelerated our work and really ramped up our efforts to make sure that the connection between smart cities and the green transition is become much more paramount and profound in the way that we look at the smart cities. And we have, and I'm showing you here a selection of different indicators under the 3 pillars that we have within our framework that are driving progress on green transition type issues related to the smart cities. Now, some of the key lessons that we have from our work in terms of basically making that connection between smart cities and achieving net zero are perhaps the importance of embodying a smart city strategy from the beginning that aligns with net zero objectives. And we're seeing increasingly cities doing this. Vienna and Rio, for example, recently have that embodied in their action plans from the get-go. And that makes a huge difference. We also need to make sure that there's an ability to promote and scale up the types of applications and replications that are being used. And we provide an opportunity to have that type of sharing and that cross-fertilization of ideas. You need to make sure that there's a big cooperation of different stakeholders. And that there's some of the challenges that you have in terms of implementing smart city solutions, of course, is related to things like NIMBYism. So you need to make sure that everybody's on board in order to drive those changes. You need to make sure that you can capitalize on smart innovation and entrepreneurship, foster those green entrepreneurs of the future that can drive an awful lot of that change. But of course, you need to have the money. You need to make sure that there are a whole range of actions that allow you to secure the private finance, but also to use a range of innovative tools like land value capture that can bring additional money to drive the infrastructure changes that need to be made in order to deliver on the net zero transition. And of course, there are a range of other, I think, important factors. You need to have good multi-level governance, strengthening that relationship with national government. You need to make sure that the capacities within sub-national governments are also fit for purpose and able to deliver on the challenges. And of course, last but not least, you need to make sure that there is effective smart data governance. And that means not just having effective means of capitalizing on the abundance of data, but also making sure there's trust in the use of that data, which is a real issue. Now, I just want to say a few words very quickly on inclusive growth. I'm going to be very brief here because I don't want to take up too much time, and I think that Dr. Azuma, you made this presentation effectively much better than I'm going to, so I'm going to take the benefit of your presentation to be much more brief in mine. But the message is the same. What we're seeing across OECD countries, by and large, is that we have an aging problem. In many places, of course, there's also a shrinking problem. We're seeing, for example, that certainly in remote rural areas, there's no doubt about it, we're seeing many OECD areas shrinking and aging. But even if it's true that in many OECD cities we are still seeing population growth, it's also true that in many of them, about 1 in 5, they're also shrinking. So we have this heterogeneity of challenges that we need to address. One of them that cuts across all of them is aging. So aging, of course, brings in these significant challenges. Shrinking and population growth bring in slightly different challenges. We have to address all of those when we think about challenges for inclusive growth. Now, I'm not going to go into detail here, but I want to just give you a flavor of the types of challenges that you see on the left-hand side related to aging, related to population growth, related to population decline. There's a whole range, I think, of issues that need to be addressed. For example, things as simple as housing supply when you have growing cities, or change in the housing mix when you have aging cities. These are all real challenges that need to be addressed. Now, fortunately, what we're seeing on the ground is lots of innovative policy solutions. I won't go through the list, you can see them there, but that's the good news. The good news is that we are seeing that it is possible to solve these problems. And I will be very quick about the next couple of slides. I think, like I said, these are 2 slides that have been very well discussed. But I wanted to focus really just on some of the key takeaways in terms of some of the lessons that we can bring. And I want to synthesize them in very succinct way. The first, of course, is that to remember that it's not just an infrastructure problem. It's also a problem related to the types of services. And so building, for example, the infrastructure is one part of the solution. Building the infrastructure that can deliver on inclusive cities or sustainable cities or green cities. But you also need to make sure you have the capacities. You also need to make sure that you have the types of services, the public services, the jobs, everything has to be part of that mix. And so we refer to make sure you have the hardware and the software as being an important part of the solution. Again, you need to make sure that you get the buy-in of all stakeholders. Now, of course, traditionally, that means the private sector, make sure that you can tap into the financing, but increasingly it's also about local stakeholders, the residents. They need to be part of the solution. They need to be brought into it because they are the ones that can foster that change. They're the ones that can slow it down if they're not on board from the beginning. And last but not least, of course, you need to make sure that it's clear what the parameters and the responsibilities are between local and national government. Not having that clarity can often act as an impediment to moving forward. So again, it's about making sure you have really effective multi-level governance. Now, I just wanted to sum up and end the presentation with, perhaps 5 of the key takeaways that we have in terms of our work. And I can't see the chart there, so I'm going to have to read it from my own slide. But I think that the key really is, basically, we need to strengthen capacities at the national and sub-national level. And that's critical in terms of delivering the change that's needed by cities, by urban areas, and irrespective, in fact, you need it at all the local capacity. We need to make sure that we can ensure equitable access to quality public services and infrastructure. That's the point that I made just now, the hardware and the software. We need also to recognise that boosting productivity and competitiveness, but also, of course, just the entrepreneurial ecosystems, the innovation, the new firms that can drive an awful lot of the change that we need, giving them the opportunity to find solutions is absolutely critical. We need to improve the quality of multi-level governance systems, and we need to make sure that we provide the right skills, qualities and opportunities for all in those regional labour markets. And I think one of the really important points that we have learned from much of the work done at the OECD is that the regional labour market really is critical. In some countries, of course, we do see mobility within the labour force, but in many OECD countries, you don't see that type of mobility. So you do have to have local labour market solutions that really are local, addressing supply-demand challenges within the local environment, providing the types of skills training that needs to be made in order to drive the green transition. Now, I wanted to perhaps just flag here some recent work that we've done as part of our work on the G20. And this work was basically looking at some of the potential tools that can be made available to address financing gaps. And I certainly encourage you all to have a read of the report. Last but not least, just a very quick snapshot of some of the publications that I certainly recommend that you have a quick read through. There's plenty more. There's scores and scores of different types of publication. This is just giving you a flavour of the type of information we bring to the table and the type of information that I think that can drive an awful lot of the progress that we'd like to see. So with that, thank you again for listening, and thank you for all of our co-hosts, and thank you all for being here today. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you a lot, Mr. Nadim Ahmad. I'll move it for you. Okay, thank you. Next, I would like to invite Associate Professor Dr. Chacha Sitipan, the Governor of Bangkok, to give a greeting speech and give a lecture on the topic of Bangkok, a livable city for everyone.
And thank you, OECD, ERIA, and JIBH for hosting this event, very important event. And today I give talk about 30 minutes about maybe not only sustainability, but about the plan for Bangkok, which will be a livable city for all. That's our vision. And thank you for our Japanese friend, because we have such a close ties, and I think Japanese technology has improved our life a lot in Bangkok. For example, if you've been in Bangkok long enough, you see improvement in our toilet. From your innovation, we see a warm seating toilet. Many places and very convenient for us. So thank you for your innovation. You're improving our life in the toilet a lot. I think we have lots of long relationships, between Japanese and Thai people. In Ayutthaya age, 600 years, we see a Japanese village there already, and we have like lots of collaboration. And you are the important part of our investors. I mean, during the last 6 months, you stay with us, lots of investment. And even during the flood crisis, in about 10 years ago, your investors still remain with us. So thank you for all your support during the past decades. I think even in Bangkok, there are more nearly 60,000 Japanese living in Bangkok. So we have like Japan area. And so I think we are very good friends, true friends for a long time. So that's very important for us and for Bangkok. Today we will talk about three things, where are we and our vision and how to create a livable city for all. In fact, I mean, for me, livable and sustainable is interchangeable, You cannot have a livable city without sustainability. And for all, it's inclusiveness. Why we talk about where are we? I think this is important. Where are we is very important because before we talk about net zero, we talk about the future of sustainability. Important to know where you are first, And I think I like the sign at Stanford. This is a design school in Stanford, where the design thinking concept starts. Design is so important, because you have to know where you are first before you create your future, right? Because before you can plan the future, you have to know where you are and start where you are. And I think important, like Mr. Nadim mentioned, we have to share our weakness, not only our strength too, because that's a lesson for everyone. So I think for Bangkok, I think there are many good things and there are also bad things that we have to improve, right? So I think if you live in Thailand, in Bangkok long enough, you see corruption is bad issues in Bangkok, in Thailand, If you don't address this issue, no sustainability possible. Because corruption means you're using future resources for present use. So you don't tackle corruption, don't need to mention sustainability, it won't be sustainable. So I think we have problem with corruption and we have not improved much during the last decade. So our BMA team try to improve on this transparency and less corruption, We have problem of ease of doing business, I mean, regulation to get application. I mean, if you do business in Bangkok, you find some problems when you try to get some permit. So we try to streamline this process to make doing business in Bangkok or in Thailand better. Traffic jam, I think maybe you get used to it, because I have a friend who stay here for 10 years, and he say, oh, traffic jam is much better. Maybe they get used to it, no improvement, but you just get used to it. But I think traffic jam is a problem. In fact, during the COVID, we're improving. We used to be #1 in Jakarta, but now we are #10, but we are climbing back to #1 soon, I think. So this is a problem of doing business. And as I said, no sustainability, you still spend 1 month in a year in traffic jam, right? Impossible because you're burning fuel, you spend time in the traffic jam, right? We have very little green space. WHO requires 9 square meters per person. We have less than 1 square meter per person usable green space. So city has to address these issues. I think we have, I think many of you are in the real estate business, right? So I think we have problem of oversupply, household debt. We have interest rate trend that might stay, but higher than usual, right? And then about the coming down of the global economy. And also another issue, Kunatip, this about building permit, EIA, that some were revoked after the construction, causing problems. So all this is a problem that we have to address, and we are working on it. Hopefully, it will improve very soon. So I think we saw this problem, and we have to address it, right? And also the city plan right now, you can see the city plan that we have does not specify what should be built. It just specifies what is the maximum that can be built. So you can see the skyscraper popping up everywhere because they try to build maximize the profit as much as possible. So this is some of the problem that we have. But also we have some good things too in Bangkok, opportunities. I think you see urbanization is a trend. People move to city, and Bangkok is only big city in Thailand. So I think you see growth in Bangkok for sure. So urbanization would be key driver for Thailand and for Bangkok in the future. I think you see economic strength of Bangkok was GDP, companies, and population and private sector. So I think you see many things happening in Bangkok, and we are major part of the Thai economies. You see improvement in transportation, right? And many come from our Japanese friend, like the Red Line that helped by JICA and also Mitsubishi train, right? So we will have nearly like 400 kilometers of train line soon, which will improve real estate sector. But there's some problem that I will address later, right? And you see that we have a good bargain for office space. We have quite low, the rental of office space is quite low, and we have lots of supply for office space. So it's a very good location for headquarters or foreign companies too, right? And we have a low cost of living compared to other cities in the same region, right? Quality of life might be low, but we have low cost of living too. So staying in Bangkok will not cost you too much. I think you can enjoy your life better than many cities in the area. I think you see many companies, many facility was held by our Japanese friend, in the built environment. So thank you for that, especially for I think American Standard is a Japanese company, right? Right, because it's under Lixil, but even American Standard belong to the Japanese company. I just realized when I was in the real estate industry. So yeah, I think many improvement in our quality of life come from our Japanese technology too. I think Bangkok have a lot of potential in the future. Even the Agoda CEO, Agoda has a big headquarters here. They have like 3,000 staff in Bangkok. They say they can be a next Silicon Valley of Asia, And we have lots of visitors, as you see, number one, more than Paris in this last year. So I think Bangkok, to summarize it, we are exciting and fascinating city, but a little bit low productivity. So I think we need to improve on the latter side, right? Comparing to our friend like Singapore, right? Singapore, when you look at Mr. Lee Kuan Yew, the Prime Minister, in 1980, he focused more on productivity, right? He focused, you need to improve productivity, you create good education, good housing, less corruption. And then 25 years later, he mentioned about exciting and fascinating city. So if you start with productivity first, you can build exciting and fascinating city easier. But if you bring productivity later, difficult to change, right? So you can see Singapore, they can build like Marina Sand Bay within not one decade. You can build exciting location if you have productivity. So I think the key thing for Bangkok, for sustainable city, you need to think about productivity and improving our efficiency too, right? The second, our vision, I think this is important. What would be the important thing for the future? I think there will be war coming, not the third world war, but there will be a talent war. Because in fact, city is nothing else but the labor market, right? We are in Bangkok because there are jobs. We stay here because there's jobs. If there is no jobs, there's no economy. We don't need to stay in Bangkok. We can go somewhere else. So I think the most important thing for the future of the city is people, right? There's no such thing as successful city without human capital. Professor Edward Glaser from Harvard said that. So I think that's the reason why we need sustainable city, because sustainable city will attract people, will attract business, right? If you don't have a sustainable city in the future, people will leave your city, and there's no business, there's no work. So I think in the future, the wars that we are facing, also in Japan, when you have declining population, right? You need to bring talents to your city. We are competing for talents. We're not competing for money. Money come after. You have talents, money will come, investment will come, right? And you see that there are many visas that the countries issues for talents. Even Japan, you also have high talent visa for people who have smart and then a good career come and stay in Japan. So I think in the future, we will fight, we will compete to bring talents. And that's why we need sustainable cities in the future, right? There's some example, a funny example, we have in Thailand, we have dogs, we used to have pets, right? But we don't have parks that allows pets, right? The first time we just opened the park about last year, Benjakiti Park. So we opened the park about 4 rides and let the dogs in. So in the first week, there are like 1,400 dogs visiting this park, But the interesting thing would be, after we opened the park, I went to AmCham, American Chamber of Commerce dinner party. And one CEO came to me I said, oh, thank you so much for having the dog park. And why you have a dog? I asked him. And he said, no, because we have a dog park, he can convince 2 Japanese engineers to come to Bangkok. Because these 2 Japanese engineers, they have dogs, but they won't come to the city that don't have park for the dogs, you know. So that shows you how important and how talents can choose to stay. So they can choose wherever they want. But if you don't have a livable city, you don't have a sustainable city, they won't come to the cities. So that's quite important. Small things can change the quality of life and attract talents to your city. Right? Bangkok has 2 numbers, 1 and 98. Very important number for us, you know. Number 1, I already mentioned, we are number 1 visited cities in the world, like 20-something million more than Paris. 98 is our livability index, you know. Global livability index. From 122 cities, we are rating number 98. So it means we are not very sustainable, right? Because I think if you stay in Bangkok for 1 week, like you 2 weeks, be happy. But to stay and to work here a long time, maybe it's not that pleasant, right? And comparing to like Osaka, you're ranking number 10. Tokyo, you're ranking number 15. And Bangkok is number 98. And I think livability and sustainability is closely related, you know. So this is our big problem. We have to improve that. Otherwise, in the future, we cannot compete for Thailand and for investment to come into Bangkok, right? And I think there are many criteria for that. I think stability will be one important thing. So I think our vision would be quite simple, you know, to create Bangkok as a livable city for all. And I said livable, maybe interchange is sustainable. You cannot be livable without being sustainable. And for all, it means for everyone, inclusiveness for everyone. So I think that is our vision for the future of Bangkok. But how to get there? I think we have 9 guiding policies. So I think our future of sustainability, we don't talk only about net zero, about like reducing carbon footprint. There are many areas that you need to improve to obtain sustainability, like environment, healthcare, mobility, safety, management, transparency, economy, society, learning. For example, if you have poor education, if your kids not get well educated, it's tough to get sustainable society in the future because it's the people who making city sustainable, right? So there are many things that we have to think, not only carbon footprint, but all this area has to be improved to improve the sustainability of the city, right? And now we have many action plans in this, including increasing green area, using renewable energy, and recycling our garbage. So I think important thing for sustainable cities is action plans, right? You can have nice slogan, you want to be net zero in how many years, but action plans is the one that make things happen. And I think the small action plan is important because everyone can see what they have to do, what can they contribute to the program. So our goal in 2027 just to become top 50 livable cities, and hopefully we try to reach that goal, right? So I think our duty would be quite simple for the city, right? To increasing productivity, improving quality of life, creating opportunities for all, reducing inequality, and then building trust, people that can follow. I think trust is very important, right? I mean, if people don't trust you, they don't follow you. So you want to lead, to be good example to the people, you have to build trust and lead the people by doing good example to them. But how to create a livable city for all, right? When you talk about this, maybe you think about the big project, like mega project, building like mega solar cell farm for electricity. But I think for Bangkok, when we look at it carefully, right, I mean, it looks like our body, our blood system. So there are like major arterial blood system, we call เส้นเลือดใหญ่ major. And we have something like the capillary small blood system, which is called เส้นเลือดฝอย, right? In our body, we have like 20,000 kilometers of artery, main blood system, and 80,000 kilometers of capillaries. When we talk about sustainability, sometimes we focus a lot on big things, about mega projects, about like big investment, right? But I think small things equally important. You need to focus on the capillary issues too. And I think for Bangkok, our problem maybe not on the arterial issue, but more on the capillary thing that we have problem. I said we have 400 kilometers of mass transit, right? But people still drive car. Why? Because they cannot go to their house conveniently because the small system is not working properly. Right? I show you example of what I'm talking about this idea, right? So the two systems have to be in the same chain, and the chain is as weak as a weakest link, right? As strong as the weakest link. So even though you have a good arterial system, but you have weak capillary, the system will be broken at the capillary system. So I think there are many issues related to this, like mobility, park, waste management, and flooding, right? When you talk about mobility, I think I mentioned this, right? You have 466 kilometers of train line in the future. The color as a rainbow, I think we have more like 10 colors, pink, yellow, green, blue, many colors, you know, and lots of investment on this. But why people don't use it, right? I talk to many people on the train. Most of them convert from bus to train, not from car to train. They convert, they used to use bus, they move to train. But people who using car not convert to train, I think because of the capillary system. You cannot reach your home conveniently once you leave the train station. This one is at Thong Lo, our house in Thong Lo. I think many Japanese live on Thong Lo too, right? When you leave the train, you have to take the motorcycle taxi. You have to wait maybe 15 minutes for the motorcycle taxi. To walk, the footpath is very bad. So I think we have to improve the small things too, not only on big investment, right? So yeah, you see the footpath. If you live in Bangkok, well, you see this, no? You get stumble on bad walkway. So this is to be improved. I think we have a program to improve maybe 1,000 kilometers of walkway. So this will complement our train. You have good train and you have good walkway. Like in Japan, right? You take a train and you walk long way to your home, to your destination, right? And also not only for us, but for disabled person, people with limited mobility. We need to think about them to be inclusive, right? And maybe like TOD, walkway. I think we copy many from Japan, also bike lane, right? I just came back from Nagoya. You see lots of bike being used in Japan. They have a parking, bike parking in their apartment, right? I think the left-hand side is a Japanese practice, and the right hand is our practice. So I think we can learn a lot from mobility on the small scale from our Japanese friends too. Right? And you see when you go to Japan, right, many streets don't have footpaths, don't have the separate walkway, so you just use color for people walkway. So we copy this to do it in Bangkok, in Tsukuba area. So I think in Japan you have similar problem, you assign area for pedestrian. So we can do that in Bangkok too, right? Small thing, improving mobility in the smaller scales. Oops. What happened? Okay. And even the walkway, right? We want to do something like in Osaka, in Saibashi, that you have cover shopping, and then we copy this into our Sampeng area too. I think, yeah, so these are small things. Even asphalt, I went to Fukuoka, and you can see porous asphalt in many areas that the water can penetrate. So we copy this to Bangkok. So we start using permeable asphalt for our walkway, so the water can go to the trees, and the footpath can walk easily. Right? And then we also get help from our Japanese friend for area traffic control, controlling traffic lights using technology like sensors and CCTV. So I think we're using Japanese technology to improve our mobility too. Right? The park, right? We have big park. If you visit Lumpini Park, not too far from here, we have very big park. But this park far away from people's home, right? So we have mega project. We have big arterial park, but smaller park near your home, bad condition. So people cannot really enjoy the green, the exercise in this small park. So I think we have a policy, not only investing in big park, but in small park. I think this happened in Japan many times, you know, and we have an initiative to plant 1 million trees in 4 years term. In my 4 years term, we plan to plant 1 million trees. Now, 1.5 years, we already planted about 800,000 trees in Bangkok, improving green space in Bangkok, right? And you can see the left-hand side is Japanese park. You have small parks, many locations in your cities. I think we need to do that in Bangkok to develop, we call 50-minute parks that you can walk 15 minutes from your home to park, and you can exercise, you can do some walking or jogging. Oh, again, sorry. Yeah, so we need to improve our this part. Garbage, big thing, right? We have 10,000 tons of garbage every day. We invest like 10 billion baht on incinerator, world-class, state-of-the-art incinerator. But when you look at the garbage collection, right? At our house, we still use people to carry it. This one is my team. He carry about 2 tons of garbage every day from each household, not using like this carry. So the small system is very weak. Even you have good incinerator, but collecting system is bad. So you need to improve on these small issues too, right? So we need to improve on mobility using smaller garbage truck, separate the garbage, zero waste. And then in fact we copy this idea from Japan. Oh, we copy many things from you. This one is when you see it's like a garbage, how you call it, lid that you can fold and you open up. And people put the garbage in, and then after you finish using it, garbage truck came, you fold it back, right? So our team went to study in Japan, and he took picture and sent to us, right? So we copy Japanese idea to be used in Bangkok. Very, very good, because otherwise rats and other animals will come and try to find food there. So with this garbage box, you can make things much better. And small things like this improve the city sustainability. Flooding, I think you have lots of problems with flooding in Bangkok, right? And when we talk about flooding, people talk about giant tunnels to drain water, right? 6 meter diameter. We have this big tunnel, about 20 kilometers of it in Bangkok. We invest, I think maybe 60 billion Thai baht on this, but still flooding. Why? Because water never reached the tunnel. Problem is on the small drainage in front of your house. We have 6,000 kilometers of small drainage, which are dirty and got clogged. The water never reached the tunnel. So we need to improve on this small thing, like cleaning up. And that last year we cleaned 3,000 kilometers of them. And the flooding getting much, much better. No big investment on mega project. Just improve on small thing that is a big problem. Sorry, I think I hit the wrong one again. All right, and I think we have help from our friend too. I think Weather New from Japan help install something for prediction of the weather forecast, making our forecast much better. So I think the problem of inequality is sometimes the politician like me want to invest on mega project, right? Big investment, and then forget about small things. Maybe because the big project is a lot of investment, big budget, more sexy, But I think you need to think about small things too, because I think the problem would be sometimes the weak capillary lead to inequality, right? You have bad school, you have bad health care, and you create inequalities. Or sometimes maybe because of inequalities, you lead to weak capillary, you neglect small things because they are not important, right? So I think this is important when you talk about sustainability, talk about things for small people to improve too, not only on mega project, on grand scale. So that's our scheme, but we have to do on other things too. So we have many small targets for every district, and we have also mega project that we are improving, like big tunnel, more rail, like traffic control, healthcare, education. So I think these two have to go in combination, and I'm sure the technology from our Japanese friends would help us a lot on improving the sustainability in Bangkok. And I think we can make the city much better if we collaborate together. And then we try to improve other things like online construction permit, improve on transparency for Bangkok too, and other construction regulation that's obsolete. I think if you do business in Bangkok, you see there are many things that need to be improved. So we are working on it. I think the final line will be collaboration is the key to success. During my term as a governor, 1.5 years, I visited Japanese 2 times. One is in Fukuoka and one is Yokohama. And I think we learned a lot from our friends. So I think our friendship is very important. Our collaboration is important. We can learn from one another and help both country to be more sustainable in the future. Thank you very much for your attention.
ครับขอบคุณท่านผู้ว่าวิ
So
สุทธิ์ครับ
thank you so
ครับ
much, the
ขอบคุณครับ
governor of Bangkok.
ขอบคุณครับเนี่ยครับอันนั้นจริงๆครับท่านที่3ครับผมนะ
The
ครับ
third
เป็นคำย้ำ
speaker,
ดรนะครับ
Dr. Tatsuo Igarashi, mayor of Tsukuba City, Japan, and he is also an OECD champion mayor.
ท่านนะครับ
And
ขออภัยครับผม
sorry, I misread that.
ครับนะครับก็โครงการที่เริ่มเมืองอาชีวะ
So
นะครับของ
he will talk about the smart city from Tsukuba City.
Well, Honorable Governor Chachat, thank you very much for your wonderful presentation. I was so impressed. Mr. Nadia Ahmad of OECD and Dr. Izumi and the distinguished guests. Thank you very much for having me here. I was so happy and honored to be here. And I was also surprised to find a toilet with washlet last night in this hotel. And usually we are too used to this washlet, but I've been traveling abroad many times, but this was the first time to find washlet in the hotel toilet. So I'm going to talk about decarbonization, smart city. And as to the decarbonization, this morning, my hometown's temperature was -3 degrees. So I was a bit worried about the temperature of Bangkok because your famous Bangkok 3 seasons, hottest 3 seasons, are very famous in Japan. So then a good friend of mine talked to me who used to live in Bangkok that, oh, are you still talking about 3 seasons of Bangkok? No, it's kind of old jargon. There are 4 seasons like in Japan, so don't worry about that. And I asked him, oh, what was added? So is it like a warm season or even like cool season? And no way. It's illegally hot. So anyway, we have to work together to ensure that we don't add another hot anywhere in the world. So in that sense, I pay my deepest respect to Dr. Chachat for his great and determined policies to shift the direction. So let me start with some short introduction of our city. Tsukuba is located northeast of Tokyo. It's about 45 minutes from Tokyo by train. So it's quite close to Tokyo. And the population of the city is over 250,000. So we are like 3 degrees warmer than surroundings, as Nadia said. And so last year, we ranked first in population growth rate among all cities in Japan. So we are a city of chosen, and not just in image, but also in concrete numbers. And the greatest uniqueness of Tsukuba City is that it's a global city of research and science. So originally, Tsukuba was developed as a national project to be the center of research and innovation about 6 years ago. And now we are a home to 150 research institutions with 20,000 people engaged in research, of 8,000 PhD holders, and we have produced 4 Nobel laureates. And also there are 12,000 people from abroad. So it's quite academic and diverse city. Then the question is, why was the city built? What did our predecessors seek to achieve in planning this academic and diversity? And what's the mission of the city? Or rather, why are we there? And I believe the mission is very simple. Our mission is to contribute to humanity by improving people's lives through science and technology. So with this in mind, we are trying to give technology back to our society, and I have set exploring tomorrow as a vision of the city. So the world is facing various problems such as falling birth rate, aging population, issues around how we work, and food and agriculture, and infectious disease, and of course, climate crisis. And no city in the world has yet found solution to those problems. So this is why we as a city want to provide a clue to solve these problems. So this is covered by Dr. Izumi, but about 3 or 4 years ago, the Japanese government called for application from municipalities to become super city type national special strategic zone, where to provide new service of cutting edge technology with relaxation of laws and regulations. And of course, I thought that this scheme fits to our city's nature, and we compiled our initiative as the concept of Tsukuba Super Science City. And our proposal was highly recognized by the government, and as Dr. Izumi mentioned, Tsukuba was designated as one of only 2 super city type national strategic zones alongside with Osaka. So in these initiatives, by making full use of cutting edge science and technology, we aim to solve various issues faced by local community. I don't have much time today, so I will give a brief introduction of our initiatives. So online voting or electronic voting is one of our initiatives. In Tsukuba City, for the past 5 to 6 years, we've been conducting online voting trials, like mock referendum was done using Japan's individual number card and blockchain technology. So with these 2 systems, we enabled secure personal authentication and prevented the manipulation of the voted data. So this system was also used in student council elections at local high schools. While counting votes in regular elections can take long hours, as you know. But with this system, of course, the counting was virtually instantaneous. And most importantly, if the system is made accessible via smartphone or PC, then it could improve voter turnout, definitely, and benefiting those who are elderly or have disabilities or just too busy to go for voting. Also not yet implemented in actual public office elections due to legal regulations. We are working with the government, or we are trying to persuade the government to realize this in near future for deregulation. Health management at the school in the city were also digitalized. And in the earliest days of COVID-19, school children used to report their health condition on paper. And because school teachers then had to check each of these papers at the school entrance, and then entrance area got just too crowded. So we decided to digitalize the physical condition reporting system using a smartphone app in collaboration with a startup company from the University of Tsukuba. As this system includes the input of children's fever and condition data from various districts. Now we are working with data scientists to advance usage of this system for the early detection and prevention of the spread of infectious diseases, such as influenzas. The cost of maintaining infrastructure is a serious issue in every municipality, as mentioned. In Tsukuba, the total length of roads is about 4,000 kilometers, and the number of bridges are nearly 600, which is one of the highest for a basic municipality all over the country. So in addition, our infrastructure is getting old. Approximately 90% of the bridges are over 30 years old, and this makes the cost of maintenance and management even higher. So by utilizing new technologies, including drones, like this picture, we could reduce the time and cost of infrastructure inspections and make maintenance work safer, which is very important. At the same time, we are working on preventive maintenance using image analysis technology in collaboration with world-class research institutions located in Tsukuba. So, about decarbonization, which will also drive a Super City initiative forward. As also mentioned by Dr. Izumi, the Minister of Environment of Japan is going to select 100 regions across the country as decarbonization leading areas by 2025. And these areas are supposed to take advanced measures using their regional characteristic to achieve carbon neutral by 2030. To focus in each characteristic is very important, as Nadia just put in. So Tsukuba was selected as this decarbonization leading area last year and will be funded about 5 billion yen or 13 billion Thai baht for coming 5 years from the government. So now I'll share some of our initiatives. First is the construction of a microgrid in the city center area. What makes this initiative unique is that we set the microgrid in a so-called brownfield. In many cases, big smart city projects are carried out in what you call green fields, which are areas without existing buildings or infrastructure. In contrast, a brownfield refers to an area where buildings and infrastructure are already in place. Considering that most Japanese cities are brown, it's very meaningful to create a model in such areas. Of course, if a model can be created in a brown field, it's easy to deploy it to a green field. So we will construct a microgrid using the existing common ducts or utility corridor in the city center. It's like that. So these common ducts are conduits buried underground in the central urban area of Tsukuba about 50 years ago during city construction, and they house water pipes, telephone cables, and district heating and cooling, and cable television cables, etc. So a microgrid is, as you know, a network that distributes electricity generated by nearby power plants or renewable energy sources. So in this plan, we will install additional independent lines in the existing common ducts to build a system for transmitting electricity. So the green lines in the slide indicate the route where the common ducts run. And in the area, we will install solar panels and batteries, as well as introduce an energy management system to efficiently utilize electricity. So this microgrid will also contribute to enhancing resilience, as this area can independently and stably supply electricity even during large-scale blackouts in times of disaster. And of course, by utilizing existing infrastructure, we can significantly reduce initial costs. In addition, we are going to optimize a wide range of energy sources generated by businesses and households in the city so that we can provide a carbon neutral supply of electricity, steam, and heat. In the microgrid plant, we will introduce a diesel engine capable of biomass power generation. So the fuel for this generator is fish oil, remaining after the extraction of functional fat oil from fish at a pharmaceutical factory in the city. So currently, this fish oil is sold outside the city. So by using it as fuel for power generation within the area, we can generate and supply carbon neutral electricity. And this is not only an effective use of resources, but also contributes to the regional economic cycle. Fish oil is seen as a promising case for expansion in cities in Southeast Asia, maybe in Bangkok as well. The picture in the middle is nature of our city. So we are not just an academic modern city, but we are very rich in nature and active in agriculture, and especially in turf production, we are #1 in Japan. However, this is causing a problem. The handling of leaf clippings from turf cultivation is causing a social issue, specifically issues of smoke nuisance from burning by farmers. And also, street trees are very important for the city, but handling these pruned branches also a challenge. So to solve these problems, we are planning to introduce briquetting. Leaf clippings and pruned branches from street trees are not usable for power generation as they are. But if they are finely crushed and compacted as a form of briquette, they can be very useful biomass fuel to generate electricity. And furthermore, we will collect and refine waste cooking oil from households and use it as a boiler fuel for the district heating so that we can provide carbon neutral steam and heat as well. And these projects contribute to a local circular economy, and it may be like, capillary, but it's a small trial, but so important to make this kind of project with our citizens, I believe. One last initiative is digital twin. As part of our smart city initiatives, we are building communities in a 3D digital platform using digital twin technology called Plateau, which was developed by the Ministry of Land, Infrastructure, Transport, and Tourism. So decarbonization measure requires a significant amount of budget. And therefore, before actually implementing these measures, we are going to simulate them using the digital twin technology. So based on the data generated from simulation, we can launch these decarbonization measures in the real world. For example, simulations of solar radiation and solar power generation using the height information of each building on Plateau could help more accurate or precise examination in investment. So in our endeavor to make Tsukuba a smart, decarbonized city, it's very important to push forward measures which will maximize return on investment. This is the organizational chart of the Super Science City scheme, and we are with full cooperation from the University of Tsukuba and other Japan's leading research institutions. I don't really like that. So also, we are working internationally with our research institutions and also our startups. For example, Simultaneous, that's a picture of him, is a startup company launched in the National Institute of Material Science in Tsukuba, and they are aiming to contribute to building decarbonization, which is so crucial in decarbonization of the city, with a super insulation material. And I'm so convinced that their product will soon be spread all over the world. So I'm sure they can help your decarbonization as well. So what I share with you is just a portion of our initiatives, but what I need to emphasize is that we drive these initiatives forward together with our residents of the city. So the photo at the bottom of this slide shows the Citizens Climate Conference held last year. A total of 50 citizens were randomly selected by lot to participate in a series of conferences, and after numerous discussions, they compiled a proposal to build zero carbon and livable Tsukuba. And we take this proposal seriously and reflect and integrate into the city policies this year. We all know that having great technology does not guarantee success at all. Unless we listen to the voices of residents and see issues faced by them, smart city will never be smart. Therefore, we go to the place where they live, we listen to their real story, and we set the dialogue, and we design the future together. And of course, this dialogue is crucial among cities, internationally. And so as one of champion mayors of OECD, I hope to work with you in many fields in near future. Let's make this world a better place together. Thank you very much.
どうもありがとうございましたครับขอบคุณอย่างสูงครับผมนะครับ
I'd like to go into the panel discussion session, and we have two panel discussions after this, and the first topic is on the zero carbon housing, buildings, and cities. And so I will pass on the microphone to Mr. Nadim Ahmad, the Deputy Director of OECD, to be the moderator of the session. Welcome, Kun Nadim.
Well, it's a real pleasure to be able to kick off this first panel discussion. And like I said, this is an opportunity for us, I think, to learn from different experiences. And we have, I think, 6 fantastic experiences to hear from today. I just wanted to perhaps just quickly frame the conversation by a series of questions that I was hoping we're going to be able to answer during this panel discussion. The first, of course, is how can we accelerate action in this really critical decade towards net zero? I think it's absolutely essential. That's the number one question I hope we're going to be able to get some answers or insights to in this panel discussion. The third, I think this reflects the mix of panelists that we have today, is how can we develop public-private partnerships that are going to allow us to drive that transition and that goal of achieving net zero. And last but not least, what can governments lead and promote in terms of local actions, in terms of driving inclusion? So that's the 3, I think, critical questions that I hope we're going to be able to answer today. And with that, I'm going to now start to invite the panelists to the front. And I'm going to first of all invite Mr. Shigitaka Takamiya, the Director for International Building Analysis, Housing Bureau, MLIT from Japan. And Mr. Takamiya is going to be presenting today on behalf of Mr. Yadamoto, the Deputy Director General of Housing Bureau. Unfortunately, Mr. Yadamoto couldn't join us today because of the awful Noto Hanto earthquake in Japan, so he's had to stay there and help, I think, with the recovery efforts. So welcome, Mr. Takamiya. Thank you very much for joining us. I'd now like to invite Mr. Toro Hashimoto, the Director General of International Affairs Bureau, City of Yokohama in Japan. Welcome. Mr. Manaswi Arayaseri, the Sanitary Engineer, Professional Level, Construction Design Office, Public Works Department from the BMA. Welcome too. I hope you're here with us. You are. Thank you. Good to see you. Mr. Hajime Onojima, the Executive Officer, Architectural Design and Engineering Division from Obayashi Corporation, Japan. Welcome. Mr. Kamal Tanpipat, the Committee Member of the Board of Directors of Thai Green Building Institute. Welcome. And last but not least, my colleague, Mr. Takishi Miyamori, who's the Program Manager of our work in the OECD on sustainable buildings. So thank you all for joining us. Now we have the pleasure of having a series of presentations and then followed by perhaps a couple of questions that I'll be asking each of you. And then I'll try to wrap up and keep us on time for the next panel discussion. So the floor is yours first, Mr. Shigitaka Takamiya. Over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sawadika. 私は日本国政府
Right. So I am from the MLIT. Right. From International Affairs Division. My name is Takamiya. Now, actually, Mr. Yadamoto should have been here today. However, we had this big earthquake in Japan. He is handful at this moment. I won't be able to meet with us, and I am replacing him today. Now, today, let's say the decarbonization in Japan in the field of the construction. I like to talk about that. Now, it's going to be a very short time, but anyway, please listen. Right. Okay, first of all, this is Japan. This is geography of Japan. Let me just introduce you that. Now we have overlapped Japan. We have just shifted Japan to Europe. As you can see, the size of Japan is just about this Europe here, as you can see, some of the countries. Now, in summer, it's going to be humidity and very hot. And also, it's similar to that of Bangkok. Right, and next. Right, so this is the energy consumption by household. This is international comparison. Right, like you have seen in the earlier slide, that Japan is, let's say, warm climate, right? So let's say energy for the winter heating system compared to Europe, that of Europe, is lower. However, because we take bath, we love taking bath, so we do consume energy for, let's say, boiling water, bath water. So per household energy consumption compared to that of Europe, it is lower. But yeah, we again take bath and we use manage that. Now, next one is the let's say this energy efficiency in Japan in the building policy in area, the policy there. Right. First of all, next year, 2025 fiscal. After this, every new buildings they have to be they have to satisfy the regulation of this energy saving build construction. Now, after that, at the latest by 2030. Right, so let's say the primary consumption balance should be 0. That this is our target. And then for this, for the existing houses, which the energy consumption is quite heavy, we have to use this special method to achieve this. Now, through these, the existing construction and also other stocks, we have to secure this ZEB numbers, and then to realize this our promise of this decarbonization. Here, what you're looking at is what we have seen in slide. This is the characteristics of our climate in Japan. So this is one of the major actions that we're taking. So LCCM housing that we like to talk about. Now, LCCM housing is, this is not only for the living space, but also for the material that used to build this house, reducing all these CO2 emissions, to make sure also at the same time the house can stay longer and also can control the decarbonization, and to, let's say, make this balance of this decarbonization to lower than 0. Right, so from this slide, this is a life cycle, all in all, of the material. So life cycle carbon reduction is the latest action in Japan. Now, life cycle carbon is one of the, let's say, element that to reduce this operational carbon, and also for the construction usage and also demolition. This embodied carbon, what we call, we can divide into these two: the carbon when you building and the carbon embodied carbon. Right, operational carbon is reducing, but anyway, so let's say, but on the other hand, embodied carbon is increasing, and in Europe, Europe is more advanced we compared to ourselves. So from this situation in Japan, the government, the private, and the academia, we have to put align our evaluation system of this carbon. Right. So last year in 2022 December, we have this zero carbon build promotion meeting have started. Now, zero carbon building promotion committee from May 23, we have actually have made a policy that we will have this within 3 years' time. The policy we have to set, we will set the course. Now, embodied carbon, we will use this slide.
On the top left, this is the Japanese houses by company, and the larger pictures depicts the components of this small house. So it consists of around 60,000 building parts. So to calculate each CO2 emission by each part, so it's very tremendous work to calculate all the amount. So also this one is not only for the calculation alone, but to make it better building. So it means that to so it's necessary to calculate the effectively for the total carbon emission. So BIM, or building information modeling, is very important to this is also attributed to the building the effectively and the managing the building effectively. So, and also deployment to the implementation of the BIM to the society. So it needs many measures like this. I would like to skip the details, but in 25, so using BIM, we would like to start the building confirmation using BIM. So, so progress in FY23 is like this. And also to reduce the embodied carbons, it's also advisable to use the domestically produced woods or timbers. So for example, to make the regulation rationalized, and so it's for the structure and also fire prevention to enable the large-scale building. And second one is for the large-scale good quality buildings. We support, for example, 11-story buildings by wood is available now. And third one is promotion of use of wood in residential buildings to support these. So these are the Japanese measures for the decarbonization on the government level or state level. Thank you very much for your listening.
Thank you. Koppunka.
Many thanks, Mr. Takamiya. That was a fantastic presentation. I should reveal that I have an meeting with my architect on Saturday, and it's a wood construction as well. So I'm inspired by an awful lot of the new innovations that we've seen. Hopefully I can implement them myself. I'm now going to pass the floor to Mr. Hashimoto. The floor is yours. Looking forward to your presentation.
Sawadee-ka. Thank you very much for inviting us to this very important event in Bangkok, and very happy to come back to Thailand. And Kun Chachat and also the Izumi-san and Ahmad already set good principles how to go forward for the carbon neutrality. So I'd like to present the case of Yokohama, what we are taking actions at individual level and also the district level and maybe in the territorial level. Go briefly, the Yokohama is known as the second largest city, but to me that Yokohama is the largest city in Japan. Of course, Tokyo is the largest. My notion of the city or a local government is whether you collect your garbage, kaya, or not. And the Tokyo Metropolitan government is not collecting the garbage. We are collecting the garbage. So as a city, we are the largest. Our population is 3.77 million population. And we have one district or area called a central area called the Minatomirai 21, to which Kun Chachat kind enough to come over to attend our conference in November. In this area, we designate as the decarbonization reading areas. And of course, Minatomirai 21 is very important for several other aspects, but we like to make this area to lead the decarbonization effort in Yokohama. We set a goal to make the carbon discharge half in 2030, which is already 6 years ahead. And our base year was 2013, around 10 years ago. And compared to that time, we were able to reduce the carbon emission around 21%. Partially because of the COVID, so that our economic activity is a little bit down. But as you can see that we have only 6 more years to halve the carbon emission, that we have to accelerate our actions to make it half, because we are already approaching only 20% reduction. One other character which we have in Yokohama is that, as you can see, compared to the national level, our emission from household is larger. that we don't have much, actually it's very interesting to observe that the industry sector and other business sector is less emission compared to household. So from that angle, it is very important for us to take a look at behavioral change, where we utilize some nudge for the citizen to participate and collaborate for the carbon reduction. Maybe this would lead to some kind of inclusiveness action as well. So that this is one character we have, which I will talk about later a little bit more. So what we are doing is one is a district approach, district level approach, which Izumi-san mentioned, so that we utilize Minatomirai 21 as a leading area, so that we encourage each building to get involved in the carbon reduction by facilitating or certifying their environmental level utilizing the CASP system in Yokohama. And also that we encourage them to set up some zero emission building as well. Little bit look at the larger, fortunately, this area is provided energy or heat and a cooling system at the district level. We call the system DHC, very straightforward. So that right now we have ideas to convert the supply of the energy from hydrogen, so that we make this area totally carbon-free from that angle. And also that Yokohama is a very urbanized area. We don't have much spaces. For example, the currently known technology like PV to be set up in these areas. So we are working with the Tohoku region. Tohoku region, of course, you know, as hit by the damage of the earthquake, and they're very encouraged to set up PV in the area which is vacant, so that we are importing the energy from that area exclusively generated by renewable energy, which is basically PV. So that we have some agreement of that energy supplier there to provide the energy to us. And as I mentioned, that one issue of Japanese government and us is how to convert energy sources into hydrogen. So that we are talking with the national government, and also we created a private sector collaboration framework within Yokohama to provide a supply chain in the industry area, port area, and including the Minatomirai 21 business area. The business area, I mentioned that Minatomirai is very important, that they are producing around 10% of the carbon emission of the business district in the Yokohama entire area. So that we like to make our port as well as a hydrogen-based carbon neutral port, and linking up with a district, and we like to export this idea to overseas. And also that we took action to utilize the methane which is generated from our sludge treatment. The wastewater produce a lot of sludges, and we collect these sludges in two areas, two facilities in Yokohama. Entire sludges from wastewater is collected, and we extract methane gas from these sludges and already utilized to generate the electricity. But we are enhancing, or we are encouraging more to do that from our solid waste management as well, methanation. I'd like to mention some importance of the planning process as private sector to be participated in. Governor Chachad mentioned we cannot really set what kind of city or building to be established, but at least I believe that we can guide what kind of city to be emerged. I think we are proving that in this, again, the Minatomirai area. So that this Minatomirai area, we have some master plan, of course, but also that we set up some detailed guideline and also that urban design, so that we are guiding what kind of building or what kind of facilities to be established in Minatomirai. And on the public side, that we provided this district heating and cooling concentrate system, and also that we are putting the common utility tunnel, which is known in Japan as Kyodoko. And also that we are putting some emergency water tunnel as a public services, so that these are contributing to the less emission of carbon. So that I think that this kind of process, which is difficult, I know that every country has some different regulations, but I think we like to share our experiences and knowledges to the cities so that we can have more streamlined planning process and also the private-public participation. Finally, let me mention our collaboration internationally. I think this is the reason why that we are invited to Bangkok. As you can see, Kun Chachat came over to us, and with Mayor Yamanaka, we declared jointly carbon neutrality for the cities in Asia. Around 45 cities and institutes joined this statement, which is being supported by OECD, ADB, and the World Bank. We are very much appreciate. So that we will continue this sharing of knowledge, collaboration at the city level, like we collaborate at the individual level, but we collaborate at city level continuously. Thank you very much.
Many thanks, Mr. Hashimoto. That was an excellent presentation. And it reminded me, because of course there are some similarities in terms of the port cities, some work we're doing with Hamburg at the moment, where again, the use of hydrogen is really an important part of the solution. I certainly encourage those of you here today to have a look at that report. I mean, we launched it, we released it at the COP28 in Dubai, and we have a big event in a couple of weeks' time, including Ursula von der Leyen, who will be there with us to talk about the work. I'm going to now pass the floor to Mr. Alayasiri. So over to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Manasawi Arayasiri from the BMA, and today I'm going to talk about the policy about building and in the Bangkok area. And the relevant building, the zero carbon building policies, we have two policies. The first one is BMA policy, which is according to the ministerial regulation, and that includes Bangkok. And we give FAR bonus for the operators who have the green design for the building. And next, we have the building control law. And for the building, and it was enforced with the building control law, and we call it Building Energy Code, or BEC, and that's the criteria for the new and retrofitted building. And for the FAR bonus, according to the law, we give FAR bonus for the operators who design buildings and get certified according to the trees certification. And FAR bonus will be given to the levels of tree certification. There are 4 levels, and we have the level 1 for FAR bonus increased by less than 5%, and level 4 increased by less than 20%, and FAR is the ratio of building's total floor area to the size of the piece of land upon it. And in the trees criteria, there are 8 categories, including building management and also site and landscape, water conservation, energy and atmosphere, materials and resources, and also indoor environmental quality, environmental protection, and green innovation. And so according to this announcement, we have enforced 100% of this law since last year, and with this law, the building control law, we enforce the law with 9 types of building with the floor area of over 2,000 square meters, including educational institutions, office, theater, shopping center, entertainment, assembly building, hotel, hospitals, and also condominium. And according to the Energy Efficiency Plan 2018 of the Ministry of Energy, we estimated the energy savings of around 10 to 20% from the reference building design compared to 2015, and we will try to go for zero energy building in the future, and that will actually save more than 70% of the energy compared to the reference building design. And key barriers and challenges that deter Bangkok from achieving the zero carbon target is, first, we lack the financial incentives because the operators they want to make profit, and so they don't want to invest money to increase energy efficiency and renewable energy generation in order to achieve zero carbon building. And also, the cost of electricity in Thailand is not that high, and so this will lead to increased payback period. And so, if we have like a carbon tax or other subsidies, it will help motivate the developers to invest in zero carbon building projects in Bangkok. And the other thing is that there is a lack of authority in decision making, and BMA is not the main responsible agency for building energy code, and normally the building construction law comes from the Ministry of Energy and Interior, and therefore BMA is only supporting agencies only. So that's the end of my presentation. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Yaraseri. That's a fantastic presentation. Quite a few important takeaways as well, I think, towards the end. The challenges that you refer to in terms of the incentive mechanisms, and I think certainly a number of cities and countries are looking at taxation as being an instrument to address some of that. And of course, the really important point that you made there as well about responsibilities, and that comes back to this notion of multi-level governance that I tried to stress in my presentation. I'm going to pass the floor now to Mr. Onojima. So the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much. My name is Onojima from Obayashi Corporation. So in Japanese, so I was instructed in Japanese, so I speak in Japanese. So thank you very much for your invitation. So Obayashi Corporation is a Japanese general contractor of Japan, and in Thailand we have Thai Obayashi Corporation, which is our group company, one of the important member of our company. And today our CEO, Mr. Ponchai from Thai Obayashi Corporation, is also residing. So today my topic would be net zero challenge. So, as you know, so the carbon emission reduction is very important and common issues among us. So many speeches are spoken about this one. So, such as JETRO, zero energy houses, and also the carbon neutral upon the construction of carbon emission too. This is so important. So currently, all these collectively refer to as net zero. In other words, one of the goals is to reduce CO2 emission to zero over the entire lifetime of the building, and it has come to be called as net zero. So in Japan, JETRO initiative has been promoted. This graph shows the amount of the energy consumed on the horizontal axis and the amount of renewable energy generated on renewable energy introduction. So this figure is very famous diagram defined by the Japanese Society of Air Conditioning and Sanitary Engineers, and so this is frequently referred to in Japan. What I would like to note here is that about the savings in 15%, this is the prerequisite requirement. So it means that putting the only only the renewable introduction of renewable energy is not enough. Even if a larger number of the solar panels are installed in a building with poor energy performance, it cannot be called as a ZEB. So let's build building with high energy performance, and then, if possible, introduce solar panels and other equipment to aim for zero. So, this is, so since ZEB and Z discuss energy during the operation of the building, so CO2 emissions are usually chosen during operation. However, net zero must also reduce CO2 emission from building construction. This is what we call upfront carbon. So, first of all, construction sites should consume a lot, so usually consume a lot of fossil fuels, so by the heavy machinery. So we have to manage these issues. First, so overseas cooperation is controlling by using a tool to monitor and analyze real-time CO2 emissions at all sites. And by using this, you can analyze the energy consumption at each site and manage totally. So even though it's not possible to completely reduce the number to the zero, so we are it's very important to have the training for the carbon neutral construction, and so it's also important to use the alternative fuels or using fuel cells using hydrogen.
Right, next one is the supply chain of the materials. This is embedded CO2 control. Now, we often mention that, let's say, modern construction, they use concrete, steel. This is embedded CO2 large area. By reducing these, is very important. Now, in Japan, the focus is for the wooden houses, right? Now, this photo is what we have built, actually, right? So this is a wooden house with also a fiber-proof building. This is in Yokohama. If you have a chance to go to Yokohama, go and look. Now, besides this, hybrid wooden houses also there. We are challenging at this moment. Now, on the right-hand side, ladies and gentlemen, concrete itself, 80% of the CO2 can be reduced concrete. This is already developed, and it's being applied in many places at this moment. Now, not only reduction, but this morning also we heard that CO2 sucking material, carbon negative concrete that eats all the CO2, right? And this will be one of the main items in the future. Now, this is what we are doing in Japan, and all these experience that we have in Japan, if we can contribute to your Thailand net zero plan. Thank you very much for listening, ladies and gentlemen.
Many thanks, Mr. Onajima. An excellent presentation and a good use, I think, of some of the commonalities that we're seeing across different initiatives. The 11-story wooden building I very much like. I also liked enormously the new innovations that we're seeing in the industry, the carbon negative concrete, and of course this real strong emphasis in terms of the whole life cycle, the embodied carbon measurement. And I think that's also something we'll see as we continue this conversation. I'm going to pass the floor now to Mr. Tanpipat. So it's over to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yep. Good afternoon. Okay. It's my pleasure to be here today, and thank you, the organizer, to invite the representative from the Thai Green Building Institute. Thai Green Building Institute, the responsibility is to certify the green building in Thailand. And one of the benefits that the building being certified will get, as Dr. Manaswi mentioned, the building will get the FAR bonus, in which they can build a bigger building compared to the normal regulations. Okay. The wording of the green building, I think it has been widely used internationally, but in Thailand, we also define the meaning of the green building, in which Thai Green Building are going to certify. The green building in Thailand we would like to cover or certify the building that pay their attentions in environmental and also resource efficient to the life cycle of the building itself. This can be achieved not just only on the constructions, on the operation, but got to be covered from the beginning of the project, from the concepts of the developers, the concept going to the designers, then pass it to the contractor, and then going to the building operator. It got to be all the way through. It got to be environmentally and resource efficient. In terms of the resource efficiency, we focus on 3 types of the major resourcing. The first one is the materials that are going to be used in the buildings of the building. The second one is the energies, which is we use a lot in the operational side, and also the waters. The water is one of the things. The green building itself, we not just only focus on the well-being or the comfortability of the people living inside the building. We also look upon that if we build the building not affect the neighbors or the people who live around that building itself. So the green building, it got to be green building, well by itself and well to the neighborhood itself. The concept of the green building itself, we touch upon 5 major things. The first one, the site and the location, it got to be proper and be able to well selected. We are not going to build the green building in the reserve forest. We are not going to build the green building in the land that used to be the public park or some kind of those things. That will destroy the microdiversities of the lands. We are going to, as I mentioned, water efficiencies and energies and also the material. The last one is the environmental qualities of the indoor air quality itself. So the people who live in the building, it's got to be, we hope that the people who are going to live in the building, it's got to be, have the happy life, healthy, So then when you work in the green building itself, you can have a lot of productivities that maybe Dr. Chachat mentioned before. I'm going to introduce some of the details of the principle and the guidelines for the green building of Thailand. In the Thai green building, we call our certification as trees. Trees come from Thai rating of energies and environmental sustainability. So it's tree. Tree is a tree. Maybe the name tree come from the full name. We want to have some kinds of the thing to be the symbolic of the certification. Thai Green Building Institute is a jointly institute initiated and founded by engineers and architects in Thailand working together. We come from the Engineering Institute of Thailand and also architects, Siamese Architect Association of Thailand. We has been founded 13 years ago. Nowadays, there are more than 100 of the building certified as a green building in Thailand. Most of them are in Bangkok. Allow me to elaborate more on the 5 criteria as I mentioned. The site location of the building who are going to achieve and get the certification to be the green building. It got to be, properly located in the proper land. It got to be able to, utilize the public transportations. We also require the green building to have the facility for the bicycles. Not just only the bicycle for parking. In the building, you got to have the shower room. Because in Bangkok, if you buy from your home to the building, you might sweat. Then before you get into the work, you got to have the proper shower room, to prepare yourself ready for the working. That is the one that we are going to promote it, Heat island, another thing like pollution, and also the building got to, taking care of the storm water management, The water efficiency, we look upon the efficiency use of the water fixtures that are going to install in the building itself. Sure, recycle of the water is one of the concepts that we are going to promote it.
energy efficiency is the one of the major part, energy efficient. The one that gets certified to be the green building, their energy consumption got to be, lower at least 10% compared to the building energy code. So not just only part the regulation, they got to be better than that to get the certified level. We also promoted the implementations of the renewable energies. Most of them are solar nowadays. We also concerning about the ozone depletion. So the types of the refrigerant that has been used in the refrigeration system or air conditioning system got to be the proper type, which is not harmful to the ozone layers of our Earth. Material, this is another one. We promoted to use the reuse and recycle. We also have the criteria that the developer or the contractor, when they build the building itself, their construction waste got to be well managed. So on the construction waste itself, they got to well separated it, then send to the proper place, to recycle. We avoid the construction waste to send to landfill, because that will create another things. So not just only building the building, the process to build the building, it got to be green. Indoor air quality, as I mentioned, is the building, when we build it good, the people who step in and work in the building got to feel good. So lighting and quality is one of the things that we also concerning of. So this is the main criteria of the building that if they are going to get the certification, they got to pass all of this one. The benefit in terms of all the things we has been tracked, the benefit that the building get in terms of energy saving for the 100 building that been certified, 5 to 50% of energy they would be able to achieve if they go to all the criteria itself. The waters, the waste, and the transportation. All this, when we talking about the carbon, is the operational side. The types of the green building itself also cover the embodied building itself, because nowadays when we're talking about the carbon emission in the building, there are two major parts. The first one is the embodied, which is the carbon from the material, the carbon that we emit when we do the constructions. That is the embodied thing. And the second one is the operation. Currently, if we compare this, operational emission is seen to be higher than embodied. It's around 75 to 25%. But this will be changed a lot in the futures. Because of the building technology itself, if you see this chart, the orange is the embodied. It happened when we built the building because we use a lot of material on the construction. Operational take a long time, maybe 20 or 30 years, according to the building life. The gray one, the higher one is the zero, whereby the efficiency of the buildings it in the current technology, but in the future it will have a lot of new technology bringing down energy consumption. So the operational emission will be compared to the embodied. In the future, the embodied carbon will play a significant role. In Thailand now, I think all of the agency is quite focused on the equipment efficiency, a lot of things. But in the future, we might need to shift and do more focus on the embodied, which is the how to use the proper material itself. So if we do the green building, we try to support this kind of thing to be happen in the future. We will also develop our criteria to cover not just only one building, but to be cover the whole city. So the district cooling things, a lot of district utility things will also come forward in our criteria for the city thing. So in conclusion itself, our criteria look forward to not just only reduce the energy consumptions, the proper use of the resource, but also look forward to taking care of the lowers of the greenhouse gas emission in order to, give the livable city to our future generation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tampipat. And thank you also for making that very strong link to the human aspect. I mean, the importance of making sure that we're talking about quality of life, quality of the buildings, because people want to live in good quality buildings. So thank you very much for that. Now last but certainly not least, my colleague Takeshi Miyamori. Takeshi, over to you.
Thank you, Nadim. Hello, everyone. My name is Takeshi Miyamori, and leading the program called Decarbonizing Building in Cities and Regions at OECD. Our program is supported by Japan, France, and Netherlands, as well as the BCJ, the Building Center of Japan. Today, I'm thrilled to present the Global Survey on Buildings and Climate. So far, 28 countries have participated in our survey, including Thailand and Japan. So the survey result will be shared at Global Forum on Buildings and Climate on 7th and 8th of March, which will be organized by French government. Today, I would like to share the 4 of the primary key findings from the survey. So this is a slide which Nadim already shared. So the first finding is the priority shift from operational to the embodied carbon and also the circularity of materials. The second one is that the countries are developing policy instruments step by step. For instance, regarding the whole life cycle carbon, so 50% of surveyed countries have answered that they already have assessment methodologies on life cycle CO2, while only 40% of countries have developed a limit value regulation for new buildings. And only the few countries and cities, such as France, Greater London, or Vancouver, have embodied carbon regulations so far. The third finding is that most countries will prioritize existing building in future. So countries like Thailand, Japan, Canada, Colombia, they are now focusing on the new buildings. But in future, the priority will be the existing buildings. While many countries are now focusing on nearly zero energy buildings, in Japan we call ZEV, so for new construction. But we need to focus more on existing buildings to be renovated, which is much complicated and harder than new buildings. So this is a real challenge. The fourth of key findings is that is about the multi-level governance. So more than 50% of countries replied to our survey that cities implement more ambitious policy instruments than national government. And some of the countries answered that they do have neighborhood approach, which is essential for the energy transition in local level. However, there's a gap. So 50% of national government have not gathered the local level information. To scale up the local action to nationwide, or to support small, medium-sized local government, the national government need to understand the progress and also the bottlenecks of the policy implementation in local level. So this is the last but not least. I would like to share the Dutch neighborhood approach, which addresses existing building stock with multi-level governance. The Dutch government strongly believes that the local government is the key drivers for energy transition. The Dutch government launched a national pilot called Natural Gas-Free Neighborhood Program. From 2018 to 2022, the program provided 5 million euro to each 66 pilot neighborhood in 59 municipalities to help them experiment natural gas-free methods and measures. So our survey, OECD survey on Dutch municipalities showed that 84% of municipalities said that neighborhood approach is effective, not only for the district heating, but also for the insulation, heat pumps, and PVs. So neighborhood has a scale merit, as well as the social influence among neighbors. So testing out the measures, the neighborhood is also a good starting point. So our recommendation is to start with pilot neighborhood and scale up with the multi-level governance and to speed up the local actions. Thank you.
Many thanks, Takeshi. Many thanks for an excellent presentation. I'm going to, in the interest of time, move straight now to perhaps a couple of questions. We don't have too much time. So I'm going to split up the questions perhaps into two groups. And so I'd like perhaps the first question to be answered by Mr. Hashimoto, Mr. Tampipat, and Mr. Onojima. So the first question that I have is, how can we develop public-private partnerships to decarbonize buildings and cities towards net zero goals? And what are your expectations of national and local governments? So, Mr. Hashimoto, perhaps you can go first.
I think usually public-private partnership go to the private firms, but I'd like to go beyond that to the individual citizens, as I may, as an inclusive growth. That our city took approach for the waste reduction early 21st century, around 20 years ago, that we involved the citizens, a community group like in the Netherlands case, and we were able to reduce the garbage generation like a 43%. It's a huge reduction. And out of that, we were able to shut down the incineration. 6 of them, we reduced the number to 4, so that 2/3 only. So that we took that approaches like inclusiveness and behavioral change as a partnership with a private, but a little bit expanded. So we believe that we can take the similar approach to the carbon net zero, so that we include the children to educate the adults, parents through the school system for the behavioral change to reduce the electricity, the changing the light, or to use more public transportation, something like that. In normal notion of the private sector participation, we created a collaboration framework within the local areas so that we can approach the central government to convert the energy towards more hydrogen. So that, it's a dialogue with the established private sector, such as huge oil refinery company exists in Yokohama, and we let them lead the dialogue among the parties, private sector, and even with the central government. And that's why we let them feel that they are leading the action. And maybe these days of global era, that these huge companies have to take care of their brand image or their recognition as a company, that they're the leading company to take care of the climate change. And that kind of a huge, high-level incentive can also work. That's what we feel. Thank you.
Super, many thanks. Mr. Tampipat?
Yep. Okay. The public-private partnership things, right? Okay. I think in Thailand itself, the public-private partnership thing is quite interesting, because when we talking about the to compare this, I think in terms of the roles of the public sector itself, there are 2 things that they might be able to speed up the process in order to reach the carbon of the cities. The first one is the regulations. The second is the supporting measures. The regulation is will be the one that be able to support. Like when we coming up with the FAR bonus thing for the green building itself, I think that will be able to encourage some of the building developer to see whether are they going to do this kind of scheme inside the building itself. So the regulation is the basic things, but the most important is the supporting measure. Supporting measure is coming that, because when we're talking about the net zero, it's a lot of questions from the private thing, how we are going to do that. We can do it in the real world. That could be a lot of questions. So maybe the public can be an example, can do some kinds of the pilot project to, to educate or to disseminate information to the private sector, that let them see that it actually be able to be implemented, and it got to be feasible. Because when we're talking of private sector thing, this kind of thing, sure, we got to live, so it got to be feasible, economically feasible itself. How to get to that point, maybe some of the financial supporting, financial incentive things that got to be think about to be able to go into do that. And the most important thing when we're talking about the net zero of the carbon, now we're not talking about net zero of energies. Net zero of energy is, we can imagine what this is all about, but we're talking about the net zero carbon. A lot of question is coming on. How can we got to that? What would be the embodied carbon? How to calculate that? How to measure the carbon in the long run? I think this kind of things, the implementer part will be the private sector will be important, but the public, got to have the regulation coming up with the proper supporting measure to show all these things, and then they can work together, because just one side not be able to be achieved in that side of things.
Thank you very much, and thank you also for basically making my link to you, Mr. Onishima, because I wanted to hear from the private sector for this question last. So over to you. Thank you.
Okay, let's start in English. Okay, so first, I think that one of the most important things is that some kind of existence of the academia in the field. So from the point of view of historically about the energy saving in the building, so in Japan, that's the first starting point is almost 1970. Oil shock was hit our economy. At that time, so we started energy saving buildings already 15 years ago. So from there, there's all of the like industry like us, and also the academia about the building and the energy professionals, and also their main government trying to do the energy saving. So finally, we have right now that we are discussing about ZEB or ZETRO or something like that. It also was identified by the very common rules in Japan. So using the common software. So it was very easy way to compare and compete for us in the same ground, I should say, in the same platform. So it is a quite important thing, and to make this kind of the platforms, maybe all of the sectors have to be cooperate each other. So governmental and also academia and also our industries. So we have to collaborate each other, and for us, like Podplus in wooden structure buildings is one of the leading project of this kind of activity in Japan. So it's it is some kind of our responsibility as major contractors in Japan. So first we do this kind of a leading project, and then it will be evaluated by academia or governments, and then the new technology is required, or some innovation is needed, or some the regulation is required or something. These kind of things is starting the discussion. So my point of view with this kind of point, so we should have some kind of the governments and academia and industry have to be collaborate each other.
Many thanks, many thanks. I'm going to move on to the second question now for the last three panelists. And the question is, how can governments lead and promote the local actions for energy transition in buildings in an inclusive way? And I'd like to give the floor first to Mr. Ariasiri.
Thank you. ขอบคุณสำหรับคำถามนะครับ
So in terms of the government, for BMA, we have a policy, we have net zero policy from the BMA, and that's based on the fact that Bangkok, we have buildings and we also have a lot of vehicles too. And if these two parts are being used inefficiently, Bangkok will release a lot of carbon dioxide, and therefore it is necessary that we start with ourselves, with the government. We start with the public sector before the private sector starts. And Bangkok is the local area, right? So we are more closely related to the community compared to the government sector, and so we can actually engage all the stakeholders to help formulate policies to incentivize, to create incentives and propose measures and to try to incentivize the creation of net zero building in Bangkok. Thank you.
Many thanks. I'll pass the floor now to Mr. Sakamiya.
Thank you for your question. Regarding the
decarbonization in inclusive way, so the role of the central government, what it is. So regarding this, so SME, including the SME and also local government, so bottom-up approach is important for us. So in details, it means that to make the set the standard, this is criteria. This is for basically we began from the non-residential area for the large constructors. After that, we held the trainings for them, and also using the comics to enlighten the SME contractors and also local government and the citizens. After that, we enlarged the broaden the project, the target to the individual detached houses by the small constructors or builders. So after that, so these energy saving standard, so especially we subsidize the small residential areas built by the SME builders. And as Mr. Miyamori already mentioned, in some advanced municipal government or large companies, corporates, we also support by the government also support these entities by the pilot project. So this is the measures taken by both the public and private sectors collaboration. So this is the whole inclusive activities to accelerate the decarbonization. Thank you.
Super, many thanks. And last but not least, Takeshi.
Thank you. So can I use my slides? So I would like to echo what Mayor Mr. Igarashi said. So regarding the inclusive energy transition, it is essential to involve residents and the local stakeholders. So that neighborhood approach not only created a sustainable environment, but also enabled to tackle the social issues in comprehensive approach and to respond to local citizens' needs. So it also allowed municipalities to discover the variety of communication strategies, such as share personal stories of retrofits by residents and demonstrate the model house of natural gas-free homes. So, for example, city of Utrecht and the Schiedam, they encountered the position from the residents at the first stage, the beginning stage. So they needed to develop their own communication strategies with citizens. So these communication strategies will take, really long time. So it's time consuming, but it's essential to speed up the local actions in long term. And what I also want to highlight is that this cannot be be achieved by municipalities alone. So this slide shows that there are three key successful factors for neighborhood approach in the Netherlands. So I will share two of these. The first is multi-stakeholder partnership with vertical and horizontal collaborations. So staff are seconded from both national and local authorities, which enables the swift response to local needs. The second one is flexible funding. So municipalities were given the liberty to allocate the fund according to their own needs, so which allowed price-based implementation. For example, some of the municipalities allocate the budget to invest at district heating networks, while others allocate the budget to hiring coordinators to directly work together with the residents. So we do have good examples in multi-level governance. Thanks.
Many thanks. I mean, we've sort of run over time a little bit, but I'm going to take the liberty of just trying to have a very, very quick wrap-up. I won't say much of what I want to say, but I mean, perhaps the most important takeaway from the fantastic discussions that we've had just now is that I think that the first point is that we're all in this together. I think that we need to have everybody on board in terms of solving the issue, the public sector, the private sector, but also, of course, local residents. I mean, they're all part of the solution, and so this is reinforcing that multi-stakeholder approach, but also, of course, this notion of multi-level governance. That, I think, is one of the critical, conclusions that I draw from this. The second, most important conclusion that I draw is there is a reason to be optimistic. So despite some of the, perhaps the messages that we see about the relatively slow pace, I'm genuinely optimistic about perhaps the scope of innovation and the commitment that we're seeing on the ground to drive the transition. And I think all of you have given me, an awful lot more hope about achieving the targets than I would have perhaps anticipated before today's discussion. So thank you for that. It's made me feel much happier about perhaps the future than I was before. So I'm going to leave it there because I think it's important to end this on a positive note. I want to thank you all again for your excellent interventions, and I'd like to welcome a round of applause for all of you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, all the panelists, for the very intense content that you have presented. And so let's wait for us to set up the stage a little bit, and we will go into the last session of today of our panel discussion, our second panel discussion on the inclusive growth in smart cities. And so I would like to pass the microphone to our moderator in the next session, Kun Fasanori Iwasaki, Director of Policy Research from ERIA. Let's give a big round of applause to Kun Iwasaki, please.
Thank you very much for the kind introduction, and from ERIA. And I'm very happy to be here and honored to be the moderator of the session 2, discussing the inclusive growth in a smart city. So may I invite the panelists here? Yes, maybe that the other schedule that we have in 5 minutes break, but yeah, due to the time constraints, so that I'd like to move on to the session 2, I guess. So maybe the Mayor Igarashi is now in the restroom. So then I'd like to invite Dr. Fenita Indrasari from the Ministry of Public Works and Housing in Indonesia. And Mr. Witapon Apishit Bago, Deputy Director General of Strategy and Evaluation Department of the Bangkok Metropolitan Association. And Professor Vipan Prachapumol, the Dean and the College of Population Study, Chulalongkorn University. And Ms. Hiroko Suzuki, Counselor, OECD Center for Entrepreneurship, SME Regions and Cities. And now Mayor Igarashi is alive. And finally, my colleague, Dr. Venkatacharam Ambumoshi, Director of Strategy and I'm sorry that that's Director of Research Strategy and Innovation. Thank you very much. And yeah, we know that session 1 discussed the topics of the net zero buildings in this region. And then the session 2 will discuss the topic of smart city in terms of the inclusive growth. So we invite 6 wonderful speakers to understand and discuss what's the smart city, what's the elements of the smart, and also how to achieve the inclusive growth, including the universal design in the city, utilization of the digital technology. So these are the topics that we discussed at the session. So I'd like to first invite Dr. Tatsuo Igarashi, Mayor of Tsukuba City, and to provide, of course, that the Mayor Igarashi has already provided a keynote lecture. So then that he will provide a video first. Yeah. Mayor Igarashi, please.
Yeah, I've talked enough. So the Japanese government prepared introduction of a super city project. So the video is here.
Open the future. Utilizing AI, big data, and other advanced technologies to achieve regional digitization and drastic regulatory reforms, the Super City Initiative strives for the total city of the future. To lead the world in realizing lifestyles of the future, the city of Tsukuba in Ibaraki Prefecture was designated a Super City National Strategic Special Zone in April 2022. The Tsukuba Super Science City concept applies Tsukuba City's advanced scientific capabilities to enrich residents' lives in a variety of ways. We will seek opportunities to engage in dialogue with residents and use these connections to build a better future together. Case 1, Internet voting. For various reasons, including being busy with work or childcare, people sometimes give up on going to the polls to vote in elections. A solution to this problem is internet voting. If it becomes easier for more people to vote, a wider range of people's views can be reflected in policies, which will lead to greater engagement with politics. Case 2, Mobility Assist, Mobility Robot. For various reasons, including living with a disability, being of advanced age, or raising young children, there are people who have difficulty moving around the city as they wish. Mobility robots are now being developed in multiple varieties for each of these purposes, helping people take part in society and contributing to creation of communities where everyone can be as mobile as they want to be. Case 3, Cybernetics for a healthy future society. The use of cybernetics will provide cybernetics treatments that improve physical functions, ultra-small vital sign sensors that help improve physical functions at home and monitor everyday wellness, and robotic mobility for people vulnerable to traffic movement. By seamlessly connecting these services, Tsukuba City, which covers a wide area from its city center to mountainous regions, can lead the way to solutions for medical, health, and lifestyle issues. Case 4, Drone Transfer Flight. In Tsukuba City, there are quite a few areas where residents face inconvenience in procuring daily necessities and medicines without their own cars. Multiple drones making automatic flights overhead will enable instant delivery of daily necessities and medicines to the people who need them when they are needed, helping to solve regional issues faced by aging populations. Case 5. Remote control of avatar robots. With physical labor, especially essential workers, it is still assumed that employees will be present at the workplace. By enabling remote work using avatar robots, which make work possible regardless of travel distance or abilities, even those who cannot be present in workplaces can join the working population. This is the new style of labor that Tsukuba City proposes to the world. In various aspects of our everyday lives, people will be able to do what they want and go where they want, and these opportunities will be available to everyone. The community that will provide these opportunities is the Tsukuba Super Science City. We will realize a future where services can be used conveniently.
Yeah, that's it. I think I kept my time limitation.
Thank you very much. I'm very impressed of the Super Science City and the very innovative ways to deal with the Japanese society's problem for the aging society and so on. Thank you very much. So I'd like to move on to the next speakers, Dr. Fenita Intasari, please.
Thank you for the time and thank you for having me here. I would like to introduce myself. I'm Fenita Indrasari and I'm a representative from the Ministry of Public Works and Housing of the Republic of Indonesia. I would like to share the Indonesian experience on the development of smart cities. Okay, so as you can see on the slides, I would start by saying the context of the smart city development in Indonesia. It has started with a program of towards 100 smart cities. It started in 2017, and in the past 6 years of its implementation, it has reached up to 250 cities and regencies up until now. And the beneficiaries, the residents of these cities and regencies has reached up to 133 million. And this program is being guarded by several line ministries and agencies. And there are at least 7 ministries there, and each ministry are responsible. They're focusing on certain aspects of smart city development. So, for example, the Ministry of Communication and Informatics are focusing on the digitalization of government services. And then the Ministry of Home Affairs are focusing on how these local governments can implement smart cities within their jurisdiction. And our ministry, the Ministry of Public Works and Housing, are focusing on the infrastructure, as in the sanitation, water provision, as well as the road infrastructure, supporting the livability and the sustainability of the smart city. But it is also notable that the full acceleration of the smart city development in Indonesia has gained its momentum during the pandemic of the COVID-19, where the president has specifically asked to make such acceleration. And why smart cities? I think we are all well aware that smart cities are giving quite beneficial to increase our quality of life. So according to the study of the McKinsey here, there are at least 6 aspects in life that we can benefit from the implementation, from the environment, and then from the less consumption time in accessing government services, as well as creating formal employment. And we are proud to know that 3 cities of Indonesia, Jakarta, Medan, and Makassar, have gained some interest in the Smart City Index report that has been published last year. And even though we still have a lot of homework to catch up with the rest of the leading top 17 cities in the Asia Pacific and the Europe. And so the scope of the smart cities in Indonesia, we know that we are trying to reach the SDGs as well as the new urban agenda, and the implementation of smart cities can help us to reach 70% of the goal 11 of the sustainable cities and communities. And within our national development plan, the long-term plan, we aim to reach the smart and sustainable city by the 2045. So it's still a long way to go. But we already have initiated some steps, and we focusing also on the 6 basic services on the smart city. According to the regulation, it covers education, at least education, health, public works, housing and settlement, public order and social matters, and it needs to cover 6 pillars to collaborate between all the stakeholders. And the smart city also has gained momentum with the new capital city development in Nusantara. We have 3 umbrella concepts for the capital city. Is not only smart, but it has to be also represent a forest and a sponge city. So with the 8 principles and the 24 key performance indicators of the new capital city, it is hoped to be the example of the future cities in Indonesia, and it also aimed to be the most, to reach the top 10 of the most livable city in the world. I think so, and the key takeaways is I believe that based on the presentation all day today, smart city is not merely about ICT or IoT, but I think we all agree that smart city is about supporting the sustainable environment, and it has to be people-centered. It has also need to be characterized with the smart and integrated data, and I mean smart here is, it has to be specific, measurable, aggressive, realistic, and time-bound. I think that's the end of my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your wonderful presentation, the lesson from the Indonesia and harmonizing the SDGs, and also that I'm very looking forward to the new capital city in Nusantara. Thank you very much. So then let's move on to the next presenter, Mr. Witon Apishit Bakul. The floor is yours.
Okay, so I may say good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen here. So it's my pleasure to be here. And so today, my presentations gonna talk focusing on disabled and elderly people mainly. And anyway, so to make Bangkok become a smart city, right? So we also apply 9 guiding policy as our governor, Professor Chachat, present previously, right? And these presentations might be a part of our 9 guiding policy, right? So as we know, right? So to make a concept inclusive, right? So we could not take like people to take any people to be involved, right? And also apply concept of no one left behind, right? To be included, right? So I mean, this is my presentation today have to be mainly focusing on the disabled and elderly people, right? And so when compared with the 9 guiding policy that our governor presented previously, right? So it's gonna be involved regarding to mobility and also safety, right? Okay, so to be focusing on the building that owned by Bangkok nowadays, right? So we have 136 building as like mostly it's office building to be locating along our 50 district area, right? And also some building should be preparing to be served for elderly and disabled, right? So this is why Bangkok's try to apply to renovate, right? Any buildings, totally 136 buildings to be ready as a design concept, right, to be involved. And anyway, so nowadays we have already been start, right, to renovate those buildings, right? So for 35 district office and 29 public healthcare buildings already been renovated. And also we plan to be complete, right? So 136 buildings. So expect to be complete in 2027, right? So this to make sure, like, for our service for Bangkok area, right? Especially our office building owned by Bangkok to be ready for disabled and to be ready for elderly people in the year coming, okay? And also to be concerned about the elderly people, right? We also preparing to nursing home owned by Bangkok, right? So if you ever seen the map of Bangkok, right? So Chao Phraya River is like a line to split Bangkok to be two parts, right? Western part and eastern part, right? So for western parts, right, we recommend the elderly people to be under our service for nursing home locating at the Bangkok district area, right? So this can serve allow 136 elderly female residents now, right? And also to be at the eastern side of Bangkok, right? So we are under construct a new one that to be prepared for elderly people in the eastern parts of Bangkok, right? So this we hope to be ready for use at 2024. Okay. And also to concern about the people who gonna use the walkway properly, right? So we also prepare the crossing lines for pedestrians to walk, allow 326 locations allow Bangkok as well. Anyway, so as you ever seen, like Mr. Chachat, our governor present, right? So we have many line of mass transit, right? Okay, so to prepare to be ready for elderly and disabled, we also prepare the elevator for all of them as well. So now we expect to have 240 elevator to serve all of them, right? And we now at 231 already. So we hope to be complete soon as possible. And to construct and to renovate all of them to be under our standard as a universal design, right? And we have plan, right? So hoping like along the action plan, right? So we are going in the right track to make sure like our walkway can serve for disabled as well. So that's all. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. The presentation, that's a very, very concrete the achievement for the, achieving the universal design in the city. Yeah, thank you very much. So the next, I'd like to invite Professor Vipang Puracharakumo. Yeah, floor is yours.
I'm pleased and honored to participate in this seminar. My talk will focus on the impact of global megatrend on city development towards smart city and inclusive growth. Thailand has embraces the concept of smart city, which utilizes technology, innovation to increase efficiency enhance well-being, and promote sustainable development. However, global challenges such as rapid urbanization, demographic shifts, climate change, and disruptive events may negatively impact smart city and inclusive growth. One of the dominant mega trends is rapid urbanization. The speed of growth continues to increase in the developing countries. Thailand is experiencing rapid urbanization, as you can see that. As of 2020, more than half of the Thai reside in urban area, which is projected to increase to about 70% by 2050. However, rapid urbanization and uneven development can hinder innovation and create a gap between mega cities like Bangkok and smaller or newer cities. Therefore, redistribute policy are necessary to ensure balanced growth and development. Thailand is an example of rapid population aging, with 1 in 5 of its population now aged 60 and over. Due to the ultra-low fertility rate, it expected that to become a super ageist society like Japan within the next decade. In ageist society, cities must cater to multiple generations, including older people. Creating smart and inclusive cities that meet the needs of all their residents is of utmost importance. This means engaging people of all ages and ensuring a high quality of life. To create smart and inclusive cities, it is essential to develop a comprehensive system that meets all needs, including vulnerable groups and older people. This system should take a holistic approach encompassing social, economic, environmental, technological, and innovation domains. The health domains should prioritize reducing non-communicable disease, shortening the period of dependency for older people, promoting healthier lifestyle, designing a sustainable system, and promoting medical technology for maintaining good health throughout an individual life. Moreover, cities should empower communities' capacity to promote health and provide older people with long-term care. For economic domain, cities must prioritize reducing inequality, increasing economic opportunities, and ensuring income security for older persons and the urban poor. City and government should encourage innovative infrastructure and technology to boost productivity, safety, and work-life balance for all age groups. For social domain, city must prioritize social inclusion, human security, and reduce social inequality. This including promoting intergenerational solidarity and ensuring all residents access sustainable and affordable housing. In addition, they should strive to create safe neighborhoods, encourage lifelong learning, and empower community to support diverse needs of all residents, especially older people. For the environment dimension, cities should strive to create pleasant and inclusive environment that enable people of all ages and physical abilities to participate and enjoy life actively. This includes implementing universal design in home and public space, as well as in transportation, mobility, sanitation, and green spaces. Cities should regulate innovative technology to establish integrated and up-to-date data system for their population and community. This data system can help cities create tailored policies, systems, and services for their residents. Additionally, cities should provide affordable technology and digital literacy programs to narrow the digital gap and improve the quality of life for all ages. Climate change is a global phenomenon that significantly impacts urban life and harm resident health. Cities should take action to reduce pollution emission from industry and encourage friendly behavior among resident, eco-friendly. Moreover, cities should promote circular and green energy and economy while increasing green spaces. The world is changing rapidly, leading to disruptive and unexpected situations that can risk cities' development and well-being of their inhabitants. Therefore, government and the city need to develop resilient and effective policy and programs to deal with unexpected circumstances in the future. In addition, there is a need to establish various risks and disaster management system and social protection system for vulnerable groups and their family so that they can cope with rapid changing and unexpected challenge in 21st century. Together, we can achieve sustainable and inclusive development in our cities, even amidst global mega trends. We can create smart cities that prioritize inclusive growth and sustainable solutions by collaborating and involving all stakeholders, including public and private sector, community leaders, and residents. Let's work toward a brighter future for our society. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much for your insight and very so-called analytical for how to understand the developing the inclusive growth by smart city, like a social, economic, environment, health, and technological aspect. Yeah, thank you very much. So then I'd like to invite Ms. Hiroko Suzuki from OECD. Yeah, floor is yours.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Hiroko Suzuki from OECD. As a complement to the keynote speech by my boss Nadim, I'm honored to explain a bit more about our OECD's initiatives related to smart cities. Cities play a key role in climate action. Please take a look at the graph on the right side of the slide. Metropolitan regions, despite account for around 60% of direct emissions, have the lowest GHG emissions among all types of the regions. Furthermore, many cities globally have set net zero objectives. Cities are also at the forefront of digitalization. As you know, smart city solutions play a pivotal role in accelerating net zero transition, reducing energy use, improving efficiency, and fostering behavioral change. A city can both lead digital and climate transitions. Smart city applications that contribute to reaching net zero objectives and advancing inclusive growth. For example, in Thailand, Chiang Mai, a smart city clean energy project was completed using smart grid as a technology category. It is an advanced grid infrastructure, renewable integration, smart homes and smart city project. And in transportation sector, a mobility as a service, digital ride-sharing platform and traffic management system like the Phuket Light Rail project in Thailand contribute to reducing transportation demand and leading to behavioral change. However, the advancement of digital technologies brings the potential to widen disparities among individuals, businesses, and cities. Please refer to the graph on the right. It illustrates disparities in access to online public services based on the differences in educational levels. So, OECD has initiated Smart City Roundtable to develop policy framework guiding in promoting smart city to enhance people's well-being and foster an inclusive, sustainable, and resilient society. Under this initiative, OECD gathered key stakeholders from cities, regions, and national government and private sector to share emerging trends and initiatives related to smart city and discuss challenges and opportunities faced by each country and region. For the topic covered so far, please refer to the right side of the slide. Please note that this initiative emphasizes the development of measuring framework. We firmly believe that without measurement, improving policy is impossible. But what comes next? In exploring the future of smart cities, it is vital to highlight the role of artificial intelligence as a catalyst for smart cities. Let's take a look at some important aspects. At first, it is necessary to focus on the role played by AI. For example, we can delve into the importance of keeping an eye on SDGs through the predictive analysis and data processing. While AI is doing a lot to improving city life, tackling issues like transportation, energy, safety, and health, it is crucial to be aware of challenges like biased algorithms and potential for job losses due to automation. Also, to make the most of AI, we need to focus on creating a responsible AI system, setting up solid governance and data management system, and build up the ability to work with AI in the public sector. OECD is always explore new themes that impact sustainable and inclusive development, so please keep an eye on our activities. Thank you for attention.
Yes, thank you very much to provide the OECD's the activities, and very impressive of the roundtable of the stakeholders and the digital disparity. That's the very important topic, I guess. And also that, I know OECD is now doing strengthening the AIs and also the responsible AI that Suzuki-san mentioned. Yeah. Thank you very much for your presentation. And last but not the least, I'd like to invite my colleague, Dr. Venkatacharama Bomoji. Yeah, please.
Thank you, Yosaki-san, and good evening, everybody. And it is my great pleasure to be here this evening, and also privileged to be the last speaker of the last session of the day. I need to say, being the last speaker, I need to say something different. What is the difference is, yes, Hachiyama-san mentioned this afternoon, and ERIA is supporting ASEAN Smart City Network. And what I am presenting today is some of the reflections that is coming from their approach to bring this inclusive growth in ASEAN. That is when we are talking about the cities, and today morning we had a rich discussions about the buildings. But what the cities means is not only the buildings, but the people where there is living in, and the people. And if you look into this region globally, about more people are living in these cities. And by 2050 estimates, they said these people, this 60% of their contributions to the economic will be much more. Most of the 70% of or 80% of this GDP will be coming from the cities. They face several challenges, and the climate change has been brought out, and we have been discussing from the morning. But not only the climate change, but they do have other challenges that includes the traffic congestion and the security and then inequality, and as well as the urban sprawl. The cities have been trying to solve all these issues. Some cities are very successful and still struggling. So what is the thing, what happened in this last decade is these development of these ICT technologies. And that has been the power, basically now ASEAN Smart City is testing the power of these ICT technologies to bring a comprehensive solutions to these existing and emerging challenges. Another issue that is we missed in the morning is cities are successful in addressing the poverty issues, particularly in the Southeast Asia and South Asia. But at the same time, the inequality within the cities, there's a gap between the rich and poor has been increasing. And that reflect, that is kind of a reflective governance, and how these poor people can be participating in the city urban management, urban governance system. Here, that is the ICT technologies or the smart cities offer an opportunity for them. So for them, here this is a smart city is not the employment of the ICT technologies, but bringing a comprehensive solutions. And this ASEAN Smart City Network has identified 6 components of the smart city. One among is there is providing a clean and environment and providing the services efficiently. And there are 26 pilot cities, and ERIA has been conducting the studies on this application of this ICT technologies for the environmental performance. And here in Thailand, we have Bangkok and Chonburi and Phuket. We did a simulation analysis, and we found that is with available technologies that is presented in the morning, the building technologies and the provision of the renewable energy, and the traffic adjustment, we can reduce the 17% of emissions by 2030. What we also found is this could be increased to 25% in these 3 cities if these ICT technologies are applied in a very intelligent way. What these ICT technologies do, this is basically about instrumenting and putting the sensors and collecting the data and integrating this data into developing intelligent systems. If you do it, what the smart cities aims is bringing the efficiency in providing the services of energy, water, waste management, and the traffic. And also they innovate new business models and an entrepreneurship, and also generate the employment. That results in that inclusive growth. That is a blueprint of these ASEAN Smart City Networks. Each city has its own vision and own mission goals, but their priorities differ. We went to these 26 cities, and I asked the residents how these smart technologies can help you. This is what results. The highest priority of this 250 people that is we interviewed is not the first one, is not that environment. This is of the public safety. They wanted to live in a safe and clean society. Second thing is they wanted to be better services, and that is reflected in the second one. And third one comes, this is efficient services of the water and the water management. We also asked how these communities could be engaged, and here use these technologies. They find most of the technologies, they want this, not only the services, but the products. They want, for example, the financial inclusion. And they want energy and their services to be integrated. If you are paying the services, they want this energy and the water and waste management services to be integrated with the other services. Third, also they wanted to have a clean and green environment that will win. These are the priorities. And also we found what are the challenges in adopting these technologies. Here we have a kind of interesting results that is also resulted in OECD survey, and most of these cities, they face the problem of budgets. And to realize the technologies, we need the finance. I think that is very key. And second one is they have the limited capacity to have the true intelligence of the technologies. Third one is they also need to move much more of infrastructure, and this infrastructure need to be integrated. And so these are the challenges, and so opportunities are plenty, but also the challenges are several. And one of the challenges we found when the smart city is about the data. And here the smart city means developing the data, and then collecting the data and storing the data and using it for making that intelligent sessions. Here we do find the challenges, and these technologies, the domain has been developed. As we've seen in the morning, there are plenty of technologies, the advanced technologies are available that could be integrated. But when it comes to the data, and we need standards, we need protocols, that is been emerging. And for example, when coming to this generation of the data, and where is the line between the public and the private domains? So that need a policy intervention. And storing the data, who stores it, and how it is distributed within the cities, across the cities, that need new protocols. And third one is more important, if the data exists, that need an interface. The data with the business, and an interface between the people to people, and interface between the data providers and the governments. So these are the challenges remain, it has to be addressed. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you very much, Dr. Ambu. That's yes, it's very important for understand that the effort that smart city as an effort of the region wide. Yeah, so this is a case of the ASEAN. Yeah, thank you very much. So yeah, unfortunately, that the time is very limited. That we have 50 minutes. So I would like to move on to the questions from, I provide two, but it's better to be one. So yeah, the question I'd like to ask all the speakers. So how can stakeholders strengthen community and the quality of life through digital technologies? So I'd like to move on to the questions as the opposite sequence. So then I'd like to ask the Dr. Ambu first.
And how to encourage communities in utilizing the technologies. And I think when we think about communities, and this is a kind of a basic DNA of any city. But what's happening during this last decade or the last 30 years is that basic DNA has changed. There is a classical book about dying cities, America, that shows people has become a kind of strangers within the community. So here the challenge here is how to develop a harmony between the people. The people also represent market, and they translate into an economic growth. How to find this balance? I think here the smart technologies can offer three ways. One is that is, as mentioned before, inclusion. I think this is happening, that city where I live in, Jakarta, and basically they created a smart platform, smart cooperation platform, that help the people participate in the planning process and the implementation process. This doesn't exist before 5 years, when it was designated, when these platforms are created. They offer this kind of operational opportunity for the inclusion. Second thing is the integration. And the integration means we worked on a city in Phnom Penh and in Cambodia, and where this Phnom Penh is using the real-time data that is integrated with this traffic management. So they can they can take alternate routes. So this kind of on-time and real-time data integration with this decision-making helps in the urban infrastructure. Third one is the resilience. I think this happened during the COVID, and in Thailand, there are, I think they mentioned about it, there are more than 100 smart cities. And we did a study, we distinguished how this response during the COVID, and particularly for distributing this emergency relief. We find, and I think using the kind of indicators, we find this delivery of the services in the smart cities is much far better, because they have the access to the technologies and they have the dashboard mechanisms. So it helped to provide that vaccination. And these kind of things could be possible, and the smart cities and the smart digital public infrastructure enable them.
Suzuki-san, please.
Thank you. I also agree with his opinion, and I think I would like to propose 3 points that highlight how stakeholders can enhance community well-being using digital technologies. First, digital technologies can be used to improve access to public services such as vaccination, healthcare, education, transportation, thereby uplifting overall well-being of communities. According to our research in OECD member countries, digitalization has transformed how society engages with public services. About 50% of OECD population has access to public services or health information online, and digital government services has tripled since 2006. And secondly, by leveraging digital tools, stakeholders can foster increased citizen engagement and active participation in decision-making process, such as electronic voting, explained by Mayor of Tsukuba City. Yes. By using a digital platform for communication, residents can share information, strengthening connection among community members. And lastly, digitalization can act as a dynamic driver of economic growth. They create new job opportunities and stimulate entrepreneurship, laying the foundation for sustainable development and prosperity within the community. So I think by fostering greater connectivity and engagement of stakeholders, and by promoting equitable access to different actors to resources and services, smart city can strengthen the community and quality life. Thank you.
Please, Professor.
In my view, I think one of the important stakeholders is the private sector. The private sector should not only focus on developing technology and for their productivity or profit, but also developing the communities and people around them. And corporate social responsibility can speed up the installation of digital facility, especially in developing countries. Another stakeholder is the university. University can play a crucial role in developing smart city in partnership with city administration and communities. They can incubate innovators and various innovative technologies to improve connectivity, safety, enhance mobility, promote efficiency, and promote eco-sustainability. And universities have the potential to be an excellent resort for driving innovation and improving the quality of life for citizens. They can help community and city administrator by adopting multidisciplinary approach that involve collaborative research, testing, and implementation of smart city solution, thus playing a vital role in urban development. By bringing together citizen, technology, urban strategy, and policy, university can contribute significantly to advancement of the cities.
Yeah, please, Mr. Whitmore.
Thank you. Good evening again. So anyway, so in my opinion, I think to make any stakeholder engage with us, right? So the important thing is we need platform, right? So especially like the world of digitalization, right? So to make the online platforms might be helpful for any people to be easy to access. And also, we also need two-way communication, right? So as I mentioned previously, right, our governor proposed 9 guiding policy, right? So to make 9 guiding policy to be success, right? The one thing that we are doing now is to make the digitalization regarding to the platform. The naming is Taffy Fongdu. So Taffy Fongdu is an important part that helps us to communicate with the people and to communicate with any stakeholder to be involved. So they can share demand, they can share any experience with us, and also we might apply the data that we get from this platform, right, to help us to design our service to make sure like our supply to meet their demand. So this is like the important thing that we are focusing on now. And also, as we know, right? So to be we are local government, right? So the public sector and also the academic part is quite important for us to support us to make any target that we are design for action plan to be success. They can support any resource for us. So that means to share experience, to share any research, to make city lab, to make any policy to be success, right? So we need platform that we are doing now, like traffic fondue, for example. I hope this is a good thing to guiding us to be success as like a livable city in the coming soon. Yeah.
Dr. Fenita.
Yes. Thank you for the time. I would like to probably pinpoint it the role of the community as one part of the stakeholders. And it is important to bring every stakeholder, everyone within the community to see that smart city means to increase their quality of life. And the digitalization to government services and everything, they have to be able to use it and find it to be useful. And that's what's the most important thing to bring everyone within the same page. And in Indonesia, our youth are pretty good in using the digital services. So the youth with the ICT skills has reached about 90%, and that's one of the key to bring everyone in the community to be able to access, since it is notable that sometimes the poor and the elderly are being left out from accessing those services because of the lack of capacity. And this is how the youth can be helpful in that. And probably one more thing with the informality and the large proportion of the micro, small and medium enterprises in Indonesia, and how they contribute to 50%, more than 50% of the GDP, and then more than 90% of the employment. It is notable that we need to give them access to a digital platform, to a marketplace, and so on. So I'm pretty happy to know that we have several startup companies that has gained the level of unicorn, and that's a good start, at least in Indonesia. I think that's pretty good example. Thank you.
Yeah, Mayor Igarashi, please.
Everything's set. What could I add now? Well, I believe the key concept here is multi-directional feedback. So stakeholders are not acting alone. Everything is interconnected with citizens, private companies, university researchers, or city government. So given the limited time, I'll share just one example. So currently we are advancing a project called the Digital Biohub. So this is a cohort study aimed at extending the healthy life expectancy of 10,000 citizens. And we are conducting research on new healthcare services and health data analysis and development of excellent programs, for example. And in this scheme, based on data developed by university researchers, private companies collaborate to turn it into actual services and then feedback results to the citizens. But the important thing is citizens are not just recipients of the service or information, or they're not just consumers. They also provide feedbacks on the usability of the created service. So they are both providers of data and co-creator of services. So we city government seamlessly connect each stakeholder. So we are undertaking many such multi-directional interaction projects in our city. And through this procedure, we need citizens and everybody turn from the consumer or recipient of service to the subject of co-creation. That's the idea. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Yes, just the time is now 4:50, so that's I'm right to wrap up a little bit. Yes, thank you very much for all the speakers. And yeah, actually that I prepared the second question is to provide the key principles for the smart city, but I guess that all speakers already provided the elements of the smart city, elements for the achieving the green, inclusive growth, and also that the role of the local government and the national government, and also that the Mayor Igarashi just provide that's very important that how to connect the stakeholders we can say that the importance of the multi-stakeholder, but how to connect the stakeholders. So that's a very important idea and experience that provided by the Mayor Igarashi. And so yeah, thank you very much for all the speakers. I'd like to ask the big applause to the speaker. Thank you very much.